And looks like we are beginning.
Yep.
I think there's a little bit of desync there since Shibaki started a few seconds earlier, but it's all time that will be recouped somewhere by the other runners.
Yeah.
This is a very RNG heavy run on top of everything else.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult execution, very RNG heavy, so it will, even if there's a bit of desync between the runs, it won't be noticeable after a short moment.
Mm-hmm. So, as I say, in about 10 seconds, we're going to see whether this is a race in which they're going to go for no reset runs, because right at the start of the run, we have one of the most demanding skips of the game coming up, City Escape skip. They're attempting it. Mustache gets it. Very nice.
Wow.
Mustache off to a flying start then. Shibaki struggling a little bit here with his own setup.
Yeah, that skip is, it looks really spectacular, but it's heavily inconsistent. It's, yeah, very, very tough
and
to get.
And Shibaki gets it as well.
Wow, awesome.
Well, that's 2 for 4. Very nice.
That's pretty risky to go for that in a race. I like to repeatedly try it.
I'm glad that paid off for him. So, what exactly is happening with that skip there is that you see that if you jump off the ramp with enough speed, then you hit the back wall above where the speed pads are that are leading to the right. And if you fall onto them in a specific way, they actually zip you to the right while you are still both airborne and out of bounds, which sends you through part of the stage unless you skip part of the stage. But it's incredibly hard to do correctly because the speed pads that are just before the ramp, they will actually reset your speed value to a lower value than is required for the skip. So in order to do it, you actually need to avoid the speed pads. The two methods of which are to actually physically go around them or to do what is known as storing a spin dash through them, because while you're charging a spin dash, you ignore like elements of the game that will reset your speed value to something. It basically stores your current speed value and then releases it after you exit the spin dash with the additional speed provided by charging the spin dash.
Yeah, also possibly important to notice is that once you jump off the ramp for CE skip, you have no control over what's happening, and from there on until you land after CE skip or once you fail the skip, you have no control, and you have to wait until the skip or the ramp trick basically is over.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
That corner you hit, where the speed pad is, that sends you to the right, that's usually where you see the skip failing. You get stuck on the corner if it doesn't work, and then you have control again.
Once the runners get into just doing runs, that's where you will see a lot of resets.
Yeah.
And technically you have some form of control once you get the ramp jump, which is if you hold down on the control stick, you will consistently clip through where you land and die.
Oh yeah.
So don't do that.
Yeah. Also here we saw the first emerald hunting stage, so there's basically 3 emerald pieces that the game picks from a pool of different locations. And what speedrunners do is they learn the first hint for every piece location. And there's 3 hints you can get for every piece, and the first one ideally can, if you know all of them, can tell you the exact spot you have to go, and you can learn all of those and then find the pieces very quickly.
I would say that learning the piece locations is the main obstacle to learning this game well for new runners. Yeah,
it's very intimidating for lots of new runners because it's very many different locations. There's around 100 per stage.
Approximately, yeah.
Yeah.
And it is important to know them, specifically because certain pieces can either share the same name and be in multiple spots, or they can also have very similar names that require you to actually pay attention to how the hint is either spelled or the punctuation used in the hint. It can be kind of awful to learn if you have trouble memorizing stuff like that. It's kind of like being back in school.
Yeah, also for the first mech stage, right now they don't have a hover upgrade. They have to do everything without hover. So there's some more platforming here. Also, these mech stages are very important to conserve momentum. And you can do that by, if you have a sharp corner, that you jump around the corner, because in the air, if you do like a 90-degree turn, you don't lose your momentum. But if you do that on the floor, you will completely come to a full stop pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's the main part about the mech stages. Also, Prison Lane, very important to mention, is it depends a lot on getting lock-ons on enemies correctly and quickly, because there's a lot of gates in the way and they open once you hit certain enemies. So a lot of that stage is trying to lock on to certain enemies at the right time so that gates open.
Yeah, certainly. On the mech handling as well, one thing that you hear a lot of in SA2 is a lot of comparisons made to the previous game, Sonic Adventure DX, because they play fairly similarly and have similar playstyles. People say that a lot of things were improved going from SADX to SA2, which I agree with in general. Like, I think the hunting is better in SA2 since you have hints to actually tell you where to go. But one thing that SADX definitely got better was the mech movement. Gamma's movement in SADX is a lot better than the mech movement in SA2, I feel. It's a lot smoother in general. A lot of people who are learning SA2 generally, I think, unanimously agree that the mech movement is the hardest to get good at in the game. Like, Knuckles' basic movement is fairly easy since it's fairly simplistic and you can accelerate very quickly with a trick called punch accelerating. And Sonic is learning how to efficiently use spin dashes, but with Tails it's difficult to even maintain full running speed if you're rounding corners at all. We have all the runners having what looks like pretty decent metal harbors so far. Rocket platform skip giving Mustache no trouble.
Very challenging stage, very easy to die here. Also, getting the light dash upgrade here, so you can go along lines of rings.
Mm-hmm. Like, I told people that despite Rust, Mustache wouldn't have a problem keeping up here, and yeah.
Yeah.
He's a very skilled runner, despite not being seriously applied to this game for a good few months.
Yeah,
like 120, just like that. 120 metal harbor, that's seriously good.
Yeah, he's extremely good, and he always gets away from the game for a very long time, and then returns, and then immediately gets some ridiculous times without any problem.
Yeah, I think like when he first left to like play Overwatch and then came back like a few months later to do a couple of runs, didn't he get a new world record?
Yeah, he did.
People have been grinding that for months, and then he came back like, yeah, I'll do a couple of runs, whatever, and he got a new world record. So on Mustache's screen, we're also entering the first boss, Shadow 1. You're probably seeing a lot of just running into Shadow and causing damage. I mentioned storage a little in City Escape, using it to store spin dashes. You can also use it to store the somersault, because one of the problems with this game is that multiple actions are mapped to the same button. The B button has the somersault, spin dash, the light dash, the bounce, it has everything. And when you're grounded, you can use the somersault and the spin dash. And the way that the game differentiates this is the duration of your button press. If you just press and release the B button, you'll do a somersault, and if you hold it, you'll charge a spin dash. But since you're holding B, the game still technically thinks you're trying a somersault, so in the delay before the spin dash comes out, the game is treating you as though you are still somersaulting, so it's storing the somersault state, which gives you a shorter hitbox, which allows you to run through barriers, and it also lets you damage enemies. So literally what's happening when the runners are running into Shadow and causing damage is they're just holding B, and the game thinks they're somersaulting into Shadow while they're still running.
And especially for that fight, it's pretty convenient because Shadow is not programmed to dodge the storage because it's not really an attack, so he doesn't really do anything against it.
Mm-hmm. My own personal explanation for it from my own testing has been that Shadow seems to react to your animations more than anything else. Like, you can be on the other side of the arena, but if you do a jump and a homing attack or a somersault, he will immediately react to it by jumping, which makes him invulnerable to damage.
Also,
but if
Mustache
you're in the
coming
running
up,
animation, he doesn't react.
Mustache is coming up here for a very hard trick.
Oh yeah, this is very serious.
Let's see if he gets it.
He was struggling with this in practice before as well. That's a bad loop speed angle.
Let's see if any of the other runners gets it, and I think we can explain it afterwards.
I will be... His angle's just a little bad, because he's starting a little low down on the loop. Is he going to go for this again? Of course he is. Legend, this lad. There we go, he's in. Now, is he going to go for the full moonshot? Oh, he's okay, he's gone for like half. That's still okay. Like, wall run is not a trivial trick at all. Let's see what Dark Pro does with this.
It's very difficult. Basically, what you can do is that loopings in this game have like
Oh, he's going task run.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Ah, dang.
That is really nice.
Yeah.
That is a task trick that Dark Pro just did.
But basically, what is happening in this game? Loops give you a set state that is called loop speed, and basically it's kind of like auto running. You're kind of like in an automated section in a looping, so that the game can assure that you actually run through the loop. However, you can abuse that on that loop, for example, by lining up on the side and then spin dashing off and homing attacking into the loop speed trigger, and then that gives you that loop speed state without actually being in the loop. And then the game looks for the next available surface, and that is the tree, and then you end up running on the tree.
It's even just setting up the position for that is a lot harder than it looks, though, because just to land on the correct spot to start the skewed gravity fall, you need to avoid some loop speed triggers even before that. And depending where you stand, as you see when you launch off the tree, as Mustache did the last couple of times, if you're not steep enough, then you won't get a horizontal enough angle to actually land on the tree.
Yeah, it's a really tough trick.
The tree itself can also reject you depending on what vertexes you're running on as Sonic, because you have very little control when you're actually on the tree. So Mustache got pretty average RNG there, with Knuckles 42, and Dark Pro got a 30, so he got extremely good RNG.
Yeah, that's amazing.
One detail as well that I don't think we mentioned yet is that Shibaki is the only Japanese runner that we've got, and he does prefer to run with Japanese hints. And this does make a slight difference, because I mentioned before about how some hints are either ambiguous or share the same text. There are some differences between English and Japanese for which hints that applies to. So I think Japanese is slightly better for Pumpkin Hill, but it's slightly worse for Death Chamber. Because in Death Chamber you've got, say, an example of what I mean by similar hints is you have Angry Man and Angry Guy, which are in two separate spots, but in the Japanese, those hints share the same name. So if Shibaki gets one of those, say if he gets the one that's in Blue Corridor, which is from the start, forward from the start of the stage, he'll do a radar check, which the other runners won't do by searching for a green radar range for the other location before going to the other one. It's something that'll become apparent if he does it.
Oh yeah, IGT strats. So basically, while grabbing an upgrade, it pauses the timer in the level, but the level is actually still loaded, and it still continues working on the same. So that means all platform cycles keep going, and you can kind of abuse that to get a better in-game time, because there are platform cycles in this level. And for one of them, you would get to very early, so you would have to wait. So to get a better in-game time, you can wait in the upgrade while having the timer paused.
Because
and still make it.
The global cycles are still progressing regardless of the timer running on up.
Yeah.
So once runners reach the end of the stages, we'll be able to see each other's respective cycles that they caught in Mission Street. The time variance in Mission Street is lower than in other stages. Like in other stages, you'll obviously get lots of different times depending on how well you play. You generally end up with like 2 or 3 different times in Mission Street because of how cycle-based these stages.
Yeah, and the last cycle is like at the very end, so afterwards there's not much happening anymore that could change the times from what the cycles give you.
And both Mustache and Dark Pro clearly got the 0 cycle IGT cycle, because got a 202 and a 203 respectively. That's incredibly solid.
Yeah.
They are both really well tied right now, actually. Like, they are within a second of each other. This is really impressive. Aquatic Mine could easily change that, though. And this is a good example of what I mean, actually, that I said about the runners having different loading times. Mustache and Dark Pro were tied on the emblem screen, but Mustache started Aquatic Mine, honestly, several seconds before Dark Pro did. This is why we use IGT for this game now.
Yeah, on the leaderboards.
Brick Rune, that's kind of a first second piece. But let's see what happens to Dark Pro as well.
Also, in these cutscenes at the beginning of the levels, like we just had in Aquatic Mine, you can actually, especially in Aquatic Mine, you can see a lot of possible emerald pieces that may have spawned. We call those free pieces.
Yeah.
The game wants you to collect pieces in a specific order. But if you just look, if you know where pieces can be, you can look for certain pieces, and if you get them without them being on the radar, that's what we call a free piece.
Yeah.
And in that cutscene at the beginning of Aquatic Mine, you can actually see a lot of different pieces.
That was actually a mistake by Seraphim there. I think he misinterpreted the piece that he had. I think he thought that he had Sealed Window, but he had Ghost Window, which is at the top, so he did a dive down from the middle. So that's a bit of a mistake. And
also, you can use these signs on that show the water level on the side of the wall. You can use those to clip out, and you can also use them to get on the wall and run if you have enough speed.
Yeah, that's right. So I think Dark Pro had a 30 Aquatic Mine, Mustache had a 45, Seraphim had a 44. Like, yeah, so Mustache, Seraphim, and Shibaki all got very average Aquatic Mines, and Dark Pro got quite a good one, so Dark Pro's pulled ahead a little because RNG. This is just kind of the nature of the run. That once the runners are at this sort of top level where they're pulling the same sort of times in Sonic and Tails stages virtually every time when they're on good runs, a lot of the time variance is in the RNG stages. But
And Route
a little
101.
time to relax here with Route 101.
Yeah, but there's still some tech to explain. So what you see the runners, you see them snaking left and right, and that is to keep the vehicle in the drifting state, and that is because the drifting state has actually a higher speed cap than the normal driving, and that allows you to keep all the speed from boosting and from downhill sections. Normally, if you wouldn't be drifting, you would lose that speed automatically once you drive on a flat surface again, or once the boost runs out. But if you keep on drifting, you permanently keep that speed until you hit something or go uphill again. And there's also a lot of rings on the stage, and you want to collect these, and every 20-something rings, I think, you get a new boost, and you want to use the boost not immediately, but whenever they're the most beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Judging by the lap times, we're going to generally see what sort of pace people are on, but you're generally looking at, say, a 38 lap 1 and a 119 or 120 lap 2 for most runners. And then ideally finishing the stage with something like a 215 is pretty decent pace. Dark Pro's finished and Mustache catching him up. See, it's not fair. By the time Dark Pro gets into hidden base, Mustache will have equalized. It's just not fair. Mustache saved quite a sizable amount of time there as well, like a 216 to a 214. 2 seconds of variance in Route 101
is really good.
Yeah, but in Route 101, 2 seconds is actually a lot of time to save.
Yeah.
So, entering Hidden Base, we are now entering what I think a lot of top runners like to call the trifecta of hell stages in this game. A lot of us agree that these 3 stages, for Tails, Sonic, and Knuckles, Hidden Base, Pyramid Cave, and Death Chamber back-to-back, are the most difficult 3 stages in the game to execute to a high level back-to-back. Hidden Base has a lot of technical hover jumping and out-of-bounds tricks. Pyramid Cave is overall probably the hardest stage in the run to play to a high level, because how technical the whole stage is, as we mentioned before. And Death Chamber is Death Chamber. It's where runs go to die.
Yeah. I don't think we've explained hover jumping before.
Yeah, feel free.
But basically, once you're in the air and you press A, you start hovering. And if you start hovering immediately after jumping, the game adds the momentum you have from the jump to your hover. And with that, you can make a lot more height than you're intended. And the faster you double press the A button, the higher you go. And you can use that. It doesn't look very impressive, the jump itself, but it can be used to break the stages a lot and fairly easily, because you very quickly get onto areas that you're not supposed to be able to go. For example, Dark Pro, we just see you can just use, as you saw, you can just use a couple of aura jumps and you're already out of bounds and can skip that corner.
Yeah. It's a lot easier than it looks once you're out of bounds as well, because a pattern that this game generally follows, and we'll see with Sonic once he gets the bounce bracelet in the next stage, is that walls are more of a suggestion in this game. There are walls at ground level that are fully solid and they work very well, but I think the developers took a bit of a shortcut in making just solid walls and regions by making anything that you're not supposed to get to not solid. So like I say, with Tails, you're able to get extra height with the hover jump. That makes it so that once you get higher than you're supposed to, the walls simply aren't there, and you can just phase through them. And that applies for breaking back into bounds as well, with a couple of exceptions. And we're going to see that with Sonic once he gets the bounce bracelet here as well. The bounce bracelet is easily the most broken item in the game, especially due to how Sonic's actual mechanics work. With the bounce bracelet, you're only supposed to be able to bounce for a little bit of extra jump height, but we're going to start immediately exploiting a glitch called the super bounce, which is spin dashing at a wall and then bouncing before you hit the wall with the spin dash speed. And what this does is it immediately converts all of your horizontal momentum into vertical momentum. So however fast you are going at the wall, suddenly you're going that fast upwards, which you can imagine just how much this breaks the game, and we've already seen a couple of skips with it.
Yeah. Also, Dark Pro just came past the door skip, which is basically there's a small gap in the wall next to the door that you can hit with a precise setup.
It is very precise though, because the gap is a lot smaller than it looks, and the collision in this game can be interesting sometimes. I believe, I don't know if we've got any solid data to suggest this, but I believe that the physical space is a little larger on higher resolution versions of the game. Like, you might have a couple more pixels to get it. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, it feels like it to me.
Conversely as well, it means that trick is also a lot harder on the Dreamcast version, because not only is it a lower resolution, but the character hitboxes are a lot larger on Dreamcast version.
Yeah, that trick on the Dreamcast version is hell. It is extremely difficult. Also, what you just saw there twice in the level, especially in the end and in the middle, you can actually manipulate gravity with Sonic if you go off slanted surfaces and then keep enough speed and bounce and have correct angles on your analog stick, and like that you can bounce diagonally or close to horizontally and clear a lot of distance with that.
So the aforementioned Death Chamber, we've seen Knuckles RNG stages before, but Death Chamber is honestly in a league of its own. The time variance in this stage, depending on the piece layout you get, is honestly kind of scary. You can get a couple of possible free pieces right in the start of the stage, which really helps cut down the time of the stage, but if you don't get those, you can get some truly horrible layouts. Dark Pro has got a piece 1 in blue though, so he's going to do something a little odd here. He's going to kill himself. Hopefully. He may try a couple of times, I'm not sure. He's going to try and find a respawn piece, because if you die in blue, there's a good chance that, there you go, you can get a respawn piece. Shall I explain how the piece generation actually works in this game a bit?
Oh yeah, sure, why not?
I'm not entirely sure what he's doing there actually. So the way that piece generation actually works in SA2 is that, like we say, you've got 3 random pieces. The piece 1 that you get is totally random. The game just looks at all the piece 1s that the stage can generate, and it just gives you a random one. So from there, it needs to generate the piece 2 that you're going to get. So it looks at the piece 1 that you have, and then it looks at all the possible piece 2s, and it locks out the 50% closest piece 2s relative to the piece 1 location. So in other words, you're always guaranteed to get a piece 2 that's at least minimally far away from the piece 1 that you had. And then for the piece 3, it actually does quite a lot of complex math involving calculating a lot of cross products, such as, say, it looks at piece 1, piece 2, it looks at those 2 pieces that you had, and then it draws a load of imaginary 3-dimensional boxes by looking at all the piece 3 locations and measuring how big the sizes would be of all the boxes by just looking at the areas between them. And then it generates a random piece 3 that is in the pool of pieces that makes the 50% largest areas. I'm explaining that badly, but it's fundamentally fairly simplistic, even though it doesn't sound it. Suffice it to say, piece 1 is random, piece 2 is far away, piece 3 could potentially be anywhere, depending on how the math ends up working out. You can get some truly wacky looking piece layouts.
Yeah, sometimes you like collect the second piece and then the radar immediately goes green or yellow. And some stages I've had that before, and it kind of catches you off guard.
Just yesterday when I was doing my Centurion, actually, I had one of my aquatic mines. I had a piece 2 in the ghost room, and then I had another piece 3 in the ghost room as well. Like, I don't understand how the game decides that.
Also, we got 2 difficult bosses here. There's first King Boom Boo, which with really good smooth movement you can actually one cycle, get all 4 hits in one cycle. And afterwards we have Egg Golem, and you can get very quick hits by doing super bounces, which Draco explained in Pyramid Cave before. And on Egg Golem, the super bounces are extremely difficult and inconsistent to pull off because you have a very small frame window, because you have like no space between yourself and the wall to do the super bounce input, so it's very hard to do consistently.
I've done some rough measurements, and I think that from the point of releasing the spin dash to hitting the wall, I think it's only 5 frames between those. So in other words, you've got 5 frames to release the spin dash, jump, and bounce before you hit the wall. So it's not easy to do. Yeah. It's basically like 2.5 inputs in 5 frames. Half inputs. We're playing SM64 now. I know what I'm about.
A lot of people actually use like setups where they use 2 fingers to press the buttons or stuff like that.
Yeah, I personally can't do that at all, but it works better for some people. Oh, Mustache got the glitched finish as well. If you get an extra hit on Egg Golem as the victory animation is playing, then you gain control of Sonic during the victory animation. That's quite nice. Just quickly as well, I believe someone in the chat asked why people aren't just restarting in Death Chamber after getting a piece and going for death strats. The game treats restarts and taking a death differently. If you take a death, then you retain the pieces that you've already got, and it just re-rolls the piece that you're currently on. But if you restart, the game takes away the pieces you've already collected, so you start again from piece 1.
Yeah, basically, if you die, you restart from the last checkpoint, which in hunting stages would be the last piece you've collected. Like it restarts with the game keeping that info that you collected that piece, or in case of other stages that you passed the checkpoint. But if you restart, it resets the complete stage and you start from the very beginning. And an Eternal Engine here, cycle-based as well, with these cycles that you just saw Darkro on, and he's about to clip out of the level.
Oh, that setup-less clip!
Yeah.
That was beautiful. That clip is a lot more difficult than it seems. Tails' mech being as unwieldy as it is with a huge hitbox, you wouldn't think that you can just clip out of a wall like that, but the collision in the corner on that drum is extremely awkward. And Tails' collision is awkward in general, so combine those two and have a very specific setup with how you run into the corner, and the game essentially gives up with trying to push you back inbounds, and it just decides, alright, no, we're just pushing you out of bounds instead. But it requires a very specific setup. We might see one of the other runners also go for the door setup instead. You can either use the positional clip that Darkro used there, which is just estimating the position then going for it, which is a lot more precise than it looks. Or you can also actually use the door to push you out of bounds.
Yeah, if you fly in front of the door and then drop on the tank in front of the wall, your hitbox kind of clips into the wall, and then as the door inside the wall opens, it hits the front of your hitbox and kind of pushes you out of bounds. But you need a fairly specific angle for that as well, so it's kind of tricky.
Mm-hmm. Because the door's full hitbox is still there, it's just moving into the wall towards where you are.
And Seraphim just did that strat with the door.
Yep. So we have the last meteor herd, yes. The last Knuckles stage meteor herd. I think me and you both agree that this is our favourite Knuckles stage, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's good.
I like this stage a lot. Switching a cage. Dark Pro getting a little confused there for a second. It's easy to get confused in Knuckles stages though. So I think we both like this stage. Well, I like this stage at least because it's quite easy to move in. You have stages like Aquatic Mine and Death Chamber where the movement's very technical and there's a lot of tricks involved. A lot of the movement in Meteor Herd is actually akin to an auto-scroller because you're either gliding, diving, or taking rockets to ascend. And during those times, you actually can't go any faster or slower. So it's, although the stage is very big and therefore kind of awkward to learn, the movement itself is actually very simple.
Yeah, the layout is kind of confusing though because it has a lot of these big platforms that all look the same. So it's really difficult to learn where everything is and how to orient yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mustache got really nice RNG there as well with the 36. The execution was actually a little janky as well, so that probably could have been a low 30 if that was perfectly executed. See, Dark Pro's also showing Rouge's handstands. Very nice stuff. Rouge as a boss is kind of weird. The bosses in this game all have their own like AI quirks. And Rouge's AI quirk that's exploitable in a run is that she's meant to be very aggressive and attack you a lot, but she's very passive if you stay airborne for some reason. So as long as you are continually jumping and drill diving, she will pretty much just let you just stand there and beat her to death, which is quite convenient.
So we have crazy gadgets now for Dark Pro already and coming up for the others. There are huge skips in that level, 2 different ones. I assume from everyone, especially Dark Pro, we're going to see the fastest one, called CGSS, Crazy Gadget Skip. And you can...
Or Super Skip, the proper name.
And you can line up here and spin dash out of bounds, but it's very hard to not hit the kill planes because you don't really see where you're going because the camera gets stuck, and you need very precise movement to make it from there to the goal ring. It's a very tough trick to pull off.
A rough way to estimate what the kill planes are like in this room is picture a box with a lid, and then imagine that the lid has been slightly lifted off the box, so there's a very small gap between, the lid and the rest of the box. That's kind of what the kill planes are like situated here. So it's a very precise angle. And you need your angle to be doubly precise because you need to change it after you're out of bounds so that you start immediately heading to the goal ring, because the object here is to fall straight into the goal ring, but it's very far away from where you start, so you need a lot of momentum and you need the right direction. And as you can see, you can't see where you're going. It's a blindfold with minimal visual cues.
Yeah,
so this is uncommon for Dark Pro to struggle this much with it. Mustache is in. Mustache gets it flawlessly. So you can probably see here that this is the main stumbling block for world record attempts. Once you're like past CE skip and other assorted stuff in the start of the run, this is where a lot of your runs are going to die. Dark Pro was like leading pretty much the whole time, and then a couple of failures at CGSS, and now he's in second place. Like, this skip is very, very unforgiving.
Yeah, that's actually kind of surprising because Dark Pro is usually like one of the most consistent person with that trick.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but it's very difficult, so not everyone can do it 100%. Also, Shibaki did a bit of a different setup there. He did a spin dash hover from a box instead of spin dash jumping from the ledge, which I think makes the clip out a bit easier, but it's harder to get the distance to get to the goal ring.
Mm-hmm. I've never quite understood why Dark Pro uses this setup for Eggman 2, but, whatever works. The setup that Mustache used, though, I quite agree with. He actually went for a very safe free hit at the start. What typically happens at the start of the Eggman fight is that he'll immediately run to the right, and you can quickly lose control of the fight. But the mech bosses don't actually start moving until you fire your first shot. So if you just run up to Eggman before firing a shot, you can get it in for free by just shooting him in the face. And then from there, he generally stands in place and gives you a very easy to control fight.
Also, Final Rush, the last level, we skip entirely, pretty much. So what you do there is what I mentioned earlier. You can manipulate the gravity. Also, Darkpro. Oh, he's going for it. He's going for it. All right, I'll wait that out.
All right. Will it? Will it do it? Kill plane.
All right. So back to the normal skip. What you see everyone else doing. What I mentioned earlier, you can manipulate gravity. Oh, he does it again. Wow.
Wow. This guy's mental. We'll explain why this is so dangerous in a bit when everyone else is done.
Yeah. What I mentioned earlier, you can manipulate gravity from slanted surfaces with enough speed, and you can use that rail they're jumping off before the rail enters that huge spiral in the building. And with that, you can bend the gravity to the side and clear a lot of horizontal distance so that you can actually... He got it! Wow!
He's got it! Oh my god!
Yeah, you can clear a lot of horizontal distance to make it actually to the end of the kill plane, and there you can reset your gravity and fall towards the goal ring. What Darkpro, however, just did is a completely different strat, even though it results in the same thing, that you fall to the end. But what he went for is a different strat, and it actually involves going directly through a kill plane. Why that works is not 100% clear.
I can try to explain why it works, but
yeah,
like Nim said, there's no real trick going on there. There's no trick execution there. The long and short of it is that Darkpro was just going for a kill plane and hoping that he wasn't hitting it. So kill planes in this game, like, they work as intended, but not all the kill planes in this game are the same. They have like varying thicknesses and widths and stuff like that. The unit of measurement in this game is just called a unit. And the kill plane that Darkpro broke through is 4.6 units thick, which is very, very small. Maybe because of the size of the kill plane overall, maybe it caused loading issues in the game, I don't know. But the long and short of it is that if you're moving as fast as possible while falling, you can move at approximately 5 units per frame. And since the kill plane is thinner than that, it's possible to cross the kill plane in a single frame. So that, say, on frame X, you are behind the kill plane, and then on frame X+1, you're actually in front of the kill plane. But the units of measurement are so precise that there's no real setup for it. You just go for it and hope that you get it. And if you do get through, you can just fall straight to the end of the stage, and it's about 10 seconds faster than going for the safe method.
Yeah, it's ridiculously risky, and the inconsistent skip that Darkpro went for has actually been known for much longer than the consistent one, and it's been used back until like 2014. No, until the new one got found 2015. But the last Hero Story record that had it was in 2014, I believe, by Talon2461, and the most recent record by Darkpro actually uses the inconsistent skip again because it's faster, and he's mental.
Darkpro has ruined this game for everyone again.
Yeah.
A nice little bit of historical trivia as well, that the world record holder prior to Talon was Broken Arthritis, and his world record also used fast FR skip. But not only did he get fast FR skip, he made a mistake in his position at the end of the skip and hit another kill plane at the end of the stage and died. So then when he respawned, he proceeded to hit it again.
Yeah,
he got the skip
ridiculous.
Twice in a row in his previous world record.
It's from 2013, I believe.
Yeah,
it's
something
like
like
a mid 38 in real time.
And yes, Darkpro, that fast FR was totally worth it. It actually is kind of worth it if you get it second attempt. Like, if you get it second attempt, you only lose a few seconds over doing the safe strat first try.
Yeah.
because it just saves that much time to use it.
But it's just very unlikely that it happens first or second try, so most people, other than D-Pro, don't do it.
Yeah.
I usually kind of go for it when my run is dead for fun to see if I get a gold split, but it's not really something people usually go for.
So once the credits are over, we will be seeing the runners just going into attempts at their own leisure. I hope you like seeing City Escape, because you're going to see a lot of it now. And
yeah.
I guess a nice opportunity while the credits are rolling to give sort of runner profiles, really. So this is a very high-level event that we're watching, because as far as the leaderboard ranks go, we have the current world record holder, Dark Pro, so first place. Shibaki is the current second place runner. Mustache is the third place runner, and Seraphim is the fifth place runner. The fourth place runner is another Japanese runner called Emarua, but he's been inactive for quite a while now. So as far as the active community goes, this is statistically the best race you can watch. It has basically the top 4 runners at this point in time. And on commentary is me and Nim, who we are 14th and 15th place respectively for Hero Story. So not quite on the same level, though. We still know how to do a Hero Story run.
Yeah.
We've both got 25 IGTs, it's fine. Whereas all of the other runners, well, Dark Pro, Shibaki, and Mustache have 23 IGTs, and Seraphim has a very low 24. So we're not too far behind. We just can't get runs with all the tricks and good RNG. It's not possible. Let me actually check something here. Mustache was only 2 seconds behind my PB with that run.
Wow.
That's really impressive. So it looks like people are just launching into their own respective runs now. So Seraphim doing City Escape, probably going to see quite a bit of it, because to go for world record times, it is, as you can imagine, quite important to get all the tricks as early as possible. And being that CE Skip is very inconsistent, but it's also at the start of the run, barely 40 seconds in, people generally reset over it if they don't get it first try.
Yeah, it saves like 25 to 30 seconds, depending on how well you would have executed the rest of the stage.
Shibaki's also doing a little bit of Green Forest practice, it looks like. Maybe he does. Was there anything in particular that went wrong during Shibaki's Green Forest?
I don't remember anything right now. I would just assume that he probably wants to practice the tree run.
Maybe.
Most likely.
Yeah, the resets begin. So we should get comfortable, I suppose. We could regale you a little bit with our own experiences running this game, I suppose. Oh, sorry, Shibaki's also trying the task run. Very nice. That was actually very comfortably done as well.
Yeah.
So when exactly did you start running this game yourself, Nim?
I started in 2014, sometime late 2014. I didn't really get going until properly until 2015 sometime. I started with mostly doing IELTS. I never really properly learned anything. It was kind of a mess when I started, because I just picked out individual tricks for some missions, and then I did the missions, and then I kind of did runs, and it was a huge mess because I only knew some random tricks, but I didn't actually know how to run the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in the same situation, because the methodologies of running the game were a lot less formalized back then as well, that a lot of people just didn't really have an idea of how to run this game well and just did whatever tricks they wanted. Now it's a lot more disciplined, I think.
Yeah. I didn't really have any contact to the community when I first started back then. I just watched some videos pretty much and then did everything for myself.
And Dark Pro is already on a run. So we have a
wow.
CE skip and we actually have a world record attempt going. And he didn't get railed either. That's very nice.
Yeah, landing on the rail after getting CE skip is much harder than you would think.
Oh, I got rail glitched! Oh,
that's unfortunate.
Alright, reset. Let's try again. Shibaki is not in. Alright. Seraphim's on a run though, 127 city escape. So let's go Seraphim. We're in. Go for that 4th place. Make it the actual top 4 runners if you can. So, a very easy way to get very irritated at this game as a runner is to get CE skip and then proceed to get very bad RNG in Wild Canyon. I don't wish that on anyone. We're going to have to see whether it happens to Seraphim. The general timescales that you're looking at in Wild Canyon, if you get like seriously optimal RNG, you can get like a 10-second Wild Canyon. And with really terrible RNG, you're looking at getting like 35 seconds. So there is a potential variance of 25 seconds in Wild Canyon. And bear in mind that it is the simplest hunting stage.
Yeah.
Dark Pro gets it again. Nice. And Mustache continues to struggle. And Shibaki gets it as well. Wow. 3 runs at once. This is actually unprecedented.
Oh, but Shibaki got the bad camera.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
right, so he needs to backtrack to reset the camera a little.
You can do that section with bad camera, but it's not good.
And Seraphim reset over his RNG, I think. That's rough. I shouldn't have said anything. Why did I do that? So I guess I hope so once again on Dark Pro and Shibaki. It's kind of weird as well that throughout the English players' runs, we're going to be able to commentate on the quality of pieces as we see the hints come up. For Shibaki's screen, we're just going to have to see what he's going for before we actually know which pieces he's got.
Too easy! 楽勝だぜ!
Alright. So, Bigfoot. Bigfoot itself, even though it's a simple boss, there's a surprising amount of stuff that can go wrong, if that makes any sense. It's actually quite possible to just flat out die on Bigfoot, because being that you're doing the boss ringless, as soon as the boss loses its iframes, which is when it's flashing red, it will start firing its machine gun at you, and if you homing attack, you can very easily hit the machine gun fire because the homing attack sends you forward, but it also drags you down slightly. And since you start slightly above the machine gun, it's very easy to accidentally hit it. So let's see what our runners get this time.
Also, you can very easily fall off the box and then mess up your hit cycle. Mustache got it.
That's right, yeah. Because the collision on the boxes is incredibly awkward. It's worth noting as well that in run attempts, Wild Canyon is slightly easier to play, because at this point in the run you don't yet have the shovel clause, so you don't need to worry about accidentally digging into surfaces by drill diving everywhere. Like from Pumpkin Hill onwards, you need to worry about accidentally digging in spots. So it's not a problem in runs in the same way that it is a Centurion. And a Centurion is basically a community/practice category that we've got, where I mentioned before that for new runners, one of the main stumbling blocks in this game is that you're really going to struggle with the piece locations and lose a lot of time to not knowing where pieces are. So quite a while ago, actually, I suggested to people, look, if you want to get good at Knuckles, do the stages 100 times, and then you'll know the piece locations. And the first player to actually make good on my suggestion was Blazin' Zeti, who ended up making a category format where he ran each stage 20 times each. There are 5 Knuckles stages, and he did 20 plays of each to make 100 total plays. And that ended up, like, if you're a good runner, that ends up being like, at that point in time, it was like about 2 hours. So it was actually quite a nice category to just do, and especially a nice category to race, because of all the RNG involved, so you can have fun seeing what other people get for RNG, and you end up like trading the lead back and forth. So we actually really got into doing that, and we coined the term Knuckles Centurion, which is just doing 100 Knuckles stages.
Yeah, and since that's been a thing, the standard we had in the community for Knuckles levels has been increasing a lot. Now we're looking at the record times for Centurion at like a 147, so that's almost 15 minutes slower than when it was at the beginning. The current record for Centurion is held by Tommy Easy, I believe, like a 147.
What's 137, I think.
Oh yeah, right, sure. 30. Oh man, that's even more. Almost
I've got
25.
the leaderboard here. Yes,
Yeah.
Tommy Easy has the current record with 137.23.
Yeah.
To really reiterate just how much RNG variance is really in the Knuckles stages as well, let me actually pull up Live Split quickly, and I'll pull up my Centurion splits. So my own Centurion PB is 144 flat, so 1 hour 44 minutes. My sum of best is 121. Because you are just not going to consistently pull the best times. There is a lot of variance. And Tommy's sum of best will be a lot better. I wouldn't be surprised if Tommy's sum of best is something like a 115.
Yeah, I believe it's even something around 110 or something like that. I asked him a while ago, but I forgot. He's done a ridiculous amount of attempts on that category.
He really likes those Centurions. It's really increased the general quality of play during Hero Story runs as well.
Yeah.
Like, this game has undergone like a lot of community development in the last couple of years. Nim said about getting into the game in like late 2014. I got into the game in mid 2014. I can actually distinctly remember when I started running this game. It was actually May 31st, 2014, and I know that because it's an SRL race start. I wanted to be in a voice call with a couple of people who were going to do a race of the game, and they were like, no, it's races only. So I just decided to join the race so that I could be in the voice call. And then after the race, I quickly decided that I really enjoyed running the game and I wanted to do it on a regular basis, and here we are now. Funny how things work out. But at the time, the community was a lot smaller, and there were only, I would say, like 6, maybe 7 players who had sub 40 times, like sub 40 RTA. If you go to the leaderboards now, you're looking at nearly 40 people having sub 40 times.
Yeah.
And it's in large part due to how many more strats there are, but it's also because people are a lot better at Knuckles now. Like, people just don't really lose huge amounts of time on Knuckles anymore. As an example of how much it really saves time and how much the methodologies have increased over time, just take the example of Dark Pro himself. So Dark Pro is currently sitting at a 34, like a high 34 RTA. I remember back in his old 42 PB, which at the time was still a very good PB. Like, we're talking like 2 years ago. So it was a very solid time back then. During his Meteor Herd, he gets a piece and he just distinctly says, I don't know where this piece is. Like, that is unthinkable nowadays, that you could have a runner with a good time who gets a piece and they just don't know where the piece is. Like, that's just unheard of nowadays.
Yeah, when I first began following speedruns of this game, I think there were a total of 4 people, or 5 maybe, that had sub 40. So in like 2014. And the standards have just gotten a lot higher since then.
And even back then, with those few numbers, a couple of those runners at that time were already inactive, like Master C, Logan, and Talon at that point were already inactive.
Talon for Hero Story, at least.
Yeah, that's true. So, Dark Pro with the 1140 Shadow, very nice. That implies a good fight. Shadow is a little random because he can either choose to do a low jump or a high jump, and there's not really much you can do to control it. If he gives you a high jump, then you're just going to lose some time because you can't interrupt him. So it looks like our focus is going to be on Dark Pro and Shibaki for now, since they're both on promising runs. So, being that they're getting back to Green Forest, the next significant trick is, of course, the wall run again. They're going to get back to the tree halfway through the stage, and we're going to just see how they get on with the tree run. Dark Pro is very consistent at it, though.
Probably point out that's pretty impressive that all 4 runners are currently actually on the run.
Yeah, that's true. That people just aren't actually resetting over CE skip as much as I thought. This is really good. I am terribly inconsistent.
There's been some improvements on CE skip lately as well. There's several strats and setups that have been used that make it more reliable.
Yeah, Seraphim himself did some beating out and practice of the current setup that he's using for CE skip at AGDQ, actually. Like, I remember watching him practice the current setup that he's using at AGDQ, just to give an idea of how newish some of the strats are. So, Dark Crow again. Ah, he got Vertex, and he reset over it, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty rough depending on what spots on the tree you hit, even after getting the already difficult trick of getting the loop speed at the right angle to get on the tree. Once you have that, if you're unlucky, you can just hit a bad spot and you fall back off. And that loses a lot of time.
No problem though.
Yeah. We're looking
Slightly
at
surprising though that on the second loop skip he didn't attempt the loop speed to get back into bounds. Because as you're going through the second loop skip and coming through the bottom of the loop on the other side, you can homing attack through the loop to hit another loop speed trigger, which gives you more running speed once you land. But he didn't attempt it. I mean, it's a little risky, to be fair. You can hit the wrong part of the trigger and just get launched into the water, but it's fairly consistent, I think. So Shibaki is currently the one on a promising run, and as mentioned before, we are just going to have to see the pieces he's getting as he's going towards them, because we just do not know what piece he has from the Japanese text. He's got something at... Oh, he's got Forgotten Hut, because he went to church and it wasn't there. So yeah, this is a ghost train.
Forgotten Hut is for both English and Japanese. It's it can be on 2 different places.
Mm-hmm. And now he's got a church piece. It looks like this may be Sleep with the Dead, honestly. Oh no, this is... Okay. You can see it, but you can't take it, which you can get with a punch. So you can see it, and you can take it, in fact. And now he's got something at Pumpkin Mountain by the looks of it. Oh, this is close as well. Is this place where flames cross? It is, yeah. Okay. See, I know my pieces, just based on the range. So 46 is pretty average. It's kind of on the worst end of average, but it was just a very average piece set that he ended up getting, especially with an ambiguous piece. That's the name that we generally have for pieces that share the same name but can be in more than one spot. We just call those ambiguous pieces, and there's nothing you can do about going for one spot and it just not being there.
Yeah, sometimes for some pieces and some stages you want to get a second hint. For example, in Death Chamber, there's a piece that you want to get a second hint for, but it's not beneficial for every piece, since sometimes it's just quicker to just check for one. Or from where you come, hint is too far away, so it wastes too much time to get a second hint.
Very nice weight hop there from Shibaki. We mentioned before about the use of hover jumps in general to gain more height. That is the first instance of using it in the run, and it's also possibly the most important one, which is quite nice. This is the basis of getting earlier cycles in Mission Street, that if you land on that weight, you can save a lot of time.
Yeah, if you miss that one hover jump on the weight, that loses instantly 12 seconds, because you will miss the cycle. And also, if you don't have a perfect beginning of the level, and on top of that, if you do the in-game time abuse strat where you wait at the upgrade, it is very easy to actually miss the first cycle, like the next cycle as well. So you would look at a time loss of even more than that. There's at the end of the level, the last cycle now coming up for Shibaki, there's that back barrel. This is what you got it, awesome. That's usually what you want to go for, but if you miss the back barrel, if you just barely missed it, you can go for the barrels at the front. That's called a half cycle, and that saves about 5 seconds over getting the next back barrel cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So you generally have time variances of 12 second steps for the full cycles, and then like 5 seconds faster for the half cycles.
Yeah. Like, as a runner, there's generally a lot of calculation that goes on during a mission street play. Like, you're always looking at the timer to see what pace you're on and how you need to play the next section. So Shibaki on a really healthy start. A 2:04 Mission Street is a lot better than he had in the race. So entering Aquatic Mine. Now that we also mentioned last time about seeing free pieces in the intro cutscene, so let's keep an eye out. There are 5 potential free pieces that can be seen. One right behind you, a couple on the left in front of the fans, one on the right, and one on the water mill. So not one there. I don't see him yet. I didn't see him. Come on, we're all going to do it as a family. Oh, he checks for that piece. Interesting. There is a piece that can potentially be under that cart that he just checked. Oh, okay, I just can't really see on my screen that he did have a free piece there. I'm just blind then. Very nice. That is
really
seriously
good time.
solid. That is so good.
23 is amazing.
That is very, very good, yeah. You would be hard-pressed to get a better time than that. Like, with really, really perfect RNG, you could maybe get like a 15 Aquatic Mine, I'd say.
Yeah, in a run setting, it's not gonna get lower than that. You can, in individual levels, you can grind for specific pieces and take the fastest route and then just restart until you get them. So there you can get a lot lower times. Yeah, but in a run setting, the best you can usually get is like maybe a 15 if you're really lucky and execute it very well.
Yeah. The 2 types of Knuckles ILs that we see in the game are known as M1 ILs and M4 ILs. M4 IL is just a normal run style where you have a single attempt of just getting the pieces as quickly as possible and you hope for a good set. M1 is very weird because using a combination of how the death causing the pieces to re-roll works and how the actual piece generation works, we can exploit the game forcing multiple pieces to spawn at the start by getting them out of order. As I mentioned before about how the game generates pieces in order piece 1, 2, and 3 with some algorithms involved, it always generates them in that order, and then it calculates the denials based on progressing from 1, 2 to 3. So if you actually get them out of order as 3, 2, 1, it's possible to get a piece 3 that's very near the start, then kill yourself, and get a piece 2 that's very near the start because the game isn't checking for the same denial range, kill yourself again, and then get another piece 1 that's very near the start. It's something that you only see in obscure ILs, but it's just a very interesting quirk of how the game works.
Yeah, for Mission 1 ILs and Knuckles stages, you usually look at times of only a few seconds for the records, or not just the records, generally for the times for everyone who does the death abuse. And in Wild Canyon, for example, the record for Mission 1, I believe, is 1.09 seconds or something like that.
I'm checking it right now, actually, yeah.
It's something low 1 second.
It's 1.01 seconds by Change-Jumper, yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane. So, like, no, it's not hacked, and it's not using glitches, it's just using a weird quirk of how the mechanics work.
Yeah. Dark Pro getting a really bad piece on Wild Canyon here.
Yeah, that railway.
You have to push the block to the side to grab it, so it wastes a lot of time. Funny thing about that piece is though that if you look in that direction at the start of the level, there's actually the possibility that you can see it because eventually the texture for the block loads in after the emerald piece, and then you have like 1 or 2 frames where you see the piece flashing up. But most people don't check for it because the piece is bad either way, no matter if you get it early or not. And there's a lot of other free pieces that you would check for otherwise in that level at the start. So you don't really have time to do that anyways, most times. I kind of sometimes see it flashing in the corner of my eye.
Are you noticing what's going on here with Mustache? He tried the task skip on CE. That was brave, I'll put it that way. That was very brave to attempt.
Tassie skip it's quite a thing to put it that way. You can do the kind of no, it's not even really similar. It looks different, but it uses a different. It uses the same effect pretty much that you already use for the regular CD skip, just on the bottom ramp. But for that you need an even more precise spot and even more precise speed, and it's harder to keep the speed that you need. And then the angle you go off the ramp is kind of inconsistent as well, and you get different speeds. And you need to actually, for that strat, you need to fly diagonally through the level, and you need a very specific angle and very specific speed to even land anywhere. So it's not anywhere close to reliable.
Yeah, with the regular CE skip, the only reason it even works consistently, quote unquote, once you've actually got the speed pads that zip you to the side, is that they always make you go in a specific direction at a specific speed, and it just so happens that that makes you land later in the level in a very narrow spot. Like, it's a miracle that that even works. But as Nim says, it means that once you try the task skip, which can give you varying directions at varying speeds, it's very easy to miss where you need to go. And once you get the ramp jump, you don't have control, so you just need to land in the right spot.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous how unlikely it is for that to work. It's so unlikely that it's not even used in IELTS.
Yeah.
There's like a handful of people who have done it before, but nobody ever really used it in any sort of real run.
Someone's asking what sort of pace Shibaki is on. It's a little hard to judge because, as I say, for the primary timing in this game, we don't use RTA anymore. We go by IGT, and we're not tracking the level times that he's getting, but this looks like a pretty healthy run so far. Like, he's 21:30 coming up to the upgrade, which, I mean, I can actually compare by pulling up my splits.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put up my splits as well so I can just compare.
So my Pyramid Cave split, bear in mind, I have a 36:43 RTA, so, you know, about a minute behind these guys, generally, a minute to 2 minutes. And my Pyramid Cave split is 23:57, so virtually a 24. And if Shibaki has a good rest of stage, then he's looking at having like a 22-30-ish split. Okay, that might be overestimating a little, but he's going to be like about a minute and a half ahead of me, I'd say. So judging by that, still
he's
very
he's
decent
definitely on, yeah, definitely 35 pace.
This is a good run then, so to speak.
Yeah, really good.
Oh, that was
extremely dangerous.
That was nail biting for a second there, yeah. So 132 Pyramid Cave is, he probably will be grumbling a little bit, but that is honestly a very respectable time to get in a run.
Yeah. And that messing up that setup of the gravity bounce at the end is very dangerous. I usually bail out and just take the loop normally if that happens to me.
Yeah. I get really scared.
Still going for the gravity bounce there is extremely dangerous. And
he even got a free piece.
Oh wow!
So
we're looking at a really good run from Shibaki now.
This
right?
is a seriously good attempt right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, give him the hint. All right, what is this? I don't know what this is. No, it's over. Reset. No, not really. He's struggling a little. Come on. I'm assuming, yeah, he's got a blue piece. Please give him a blue secret room third piece. What do we got?
Second piece, you mean? He already got third.
Oh, yeah, alright, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad.
So he can actually, even though he already got a free piece in the red
He
room.
got it! Oh!
Yes, he got it! Wow! So he already got the piece, the third piece, in the red room where he started. But because it's the third piece, he can still use death strats and die and get a second piece up on respawning in the red room. So, and he just got that, so that's incredible.
That is actually really the same principle as what I mentioned before about the M1 IL strat of getting the pieces out of order and getting multiple pieces in the starting area. That's exactly what he did just there. It's actually the only time that we do it in a hero story run.
Yeah. Mustache is trying the task skip.
He's really going for it. He wants that. He wants that.
Seraphim just did it too, I think.
Oh my god. Mustache really wants that. What do you call it? Hero story style IL record.
Yeah. We kind of track like story style ILs. So where you have an individual level, but under the restrictions of a hero story run.
Yeah, so it's like you can't use upgrades from the start, for instance.
Yeah, at least in the levels that don't have them.
Yeah. So Seraphim got C skip there, but he reset as soon as he got it, presumably because it took him multiple attempts, and I suppose he just wanted to get it before he reset.
If you don't get it on the first or second try, it's usually not worth it to continue, because it saves like 25 seconds, and one attempt takes maybe 10 seconds to do.
Shibaki's kind of struggling with the super bounces here. Like we said, these are not trivial at all. These are very hard.
This is very rough.
He shouldn't have reset there though. That was a mistake. It's easy to get very frustrated on this boss, but generally speaking, once you've inflicted damage, I don't think you should reset from falling in the sand.
Yeah.
He's going for the poverty bounce there, as we call it, but the camera is very uncooperative when you try that.
Yeah, you can usually super bounce from the small ledge on the inside of the circle, but when Egg Golem smashes his fists on the platforms and they go down, you get a bit of a wall there as well, and you have more space there, so it's easier to get a super bounce from the sides of the platforms that have been pushed down. It's easier to get the super bounce, but it's kind of hard to work with the camera because a lot of times it just gets stuck instead of following you up. So a lot of times you have to more or less go for a blind hit if the camera doesn't follow.
Yeah, that was honestly pretty unfortunate to lose that much time though. Like, he'll be pretty unhappy about that, I imagine, and it lost a good 30 seconds because he's currently about a minute ahead of my PB. So this is still 35 pace to be fair, but the run is a little less on now. Kind of depends on the quality of this Eternal Engine though. We mentioned a little bit before about how there are cycles in Eternal Engine. The main cycle that you want to get is the rising and falling platforms before the skip, because those are about 8 seconds apart, I want to say. And to get a first cycle, you need very clean movement through the whole stage and getting a 105 check, I want to say, before
I think with 106 you should be fine if you at least if you do the quick strat on the chaos afterwards, where you just jump in his face.
You may need to get the back half of the cycle at that point though, I want to say, where you get the balloon for a backup maybe. But to get like a really clean one cycle, you're looking at getting a 105 check, I'd say.
Yeah.
That was a very nice chaos kill though.
Yeah. So he's definitely on first cycle pace here.
Yeah, you can see here that he's catching these as they're rising, so that's just a standard clean first cycle. And he also got selfless. Wow. They're making that look really easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
Even with a very precise positional setup that you spend ages like calculating, like looking at how all the bits are lined up before you even go, it's very easy to just not get that clip because you made a small mistake somewhere. Like, it's a lot more precise than it looks.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Pyramid Cave door skip. So this is going to be like a low 2 for Shibaki, I want to say. A low 2. I thought it was going to be a 159 there, but 2,
that was
10.
A really risky drop into the goal as well.
Yeah. It's easy-ish to estimate that once you're used to it, but at the same time, it's also easy to make a mistake, if that makes sense. Mustache is going for the task skip again. I know he's not primary screen right now, but this is notable if this lands.
Yeah,
he
missed it.
Yeah. You can see there that at the top of his screen, the rest of the level was zipping by. That's where he was trying to land, but he just had a slightly wrong angle and speed.
Do you know by any chance what task skip even saves? Because I don't think it's much. It's like maybe a second.
It's like a second or two, yeah, if that. So no, it's not much at all. But if you miss CE skip, then I can see it being a last-ditch attempt to get a skip without needing to go back and set it up again. So RNG in... Oh, okay, this is actually looking pretty decent for Shibaki. Dangerous Liquid in the middle, very nice. And a piece 3. Well, he's going up, so... Oh, he's going...
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Storage area. Another sub 40, wow. We are seeing some really, really nice RNG in Shibaki's run right now.
Yosh! 完璧だぜ!
He's definitely pulled a little bit of time back against my PB with that.
Yeah.
I'd say from Eternal Engine onwards, there doesn't tend to be a lot of time variance across PBs, assuming that you're doing all the important tricks at the top level, because you're skipping a lot of stuff and just doing bosses quickly. But that was a very good RNG stage, so that definitely saves quite a handful of seconds. But Rouge here should always be, I'd say, a 15, and if you are executing it extremely well, it can be a 14 fairly consistently. You made a slight mistake there, though. Like I say, you've got to be airborne on Rouge or she's going to fight back. So that landed us 16. And yes, paying attention to the frames or the spare seconds is important. Just going back to the leaderboards right now and looking at them, we have multiple instances in like the top 30 rankings where runners for IGT are on the same second and are only tie broken by the centiseconds. So it really does matter to pay attention to the small bits of time saving if you can.
Yeah, there's so much in this run that can happen that loses huge chunks of time, but then again, in the end, people end up being so close together.
Mm-hmm. That was a very nice storage getting under there. So we're going to see how Shibaki goes with CGSS. And yeah, he went back there to make sure he got the checkpoint. Going for CGSS without the checkpoint is about as dangerous as you can get in this run, I want to say.
Oh, clip outs? See if he makes it.
With what we like to call the JP strat as well. Japanese runners are the only ones that seem to consistently go for the box setup there.
Oh, he got it.
Very, very nice. There's a couple of different differences like that where we refer to them in regional terms. Like the setup that Shibaki uses for CE skip, we also refer to as the Japanese setup. Again, just because it seems to be preferred by the Japanese runners, which involves storing a spin dash through the speed pads and then just charging the spin dash after you get out of it, and then releasing and doing a jump after releasing the spin dash.
Dakro just got the TAS wall run.
Again, wow. Someone tell this guy to stop, seriously. It's too good. Oh, he attempted the Emarua setup there for Eggman 2, but missed the homing shot timing a little. Which looks really, really odd when it works. But Eggman is down with a 20. Losing a few seconds over like an optimal Eggman fight, but it's still, this run's still definitely intact.
Yeah, 20 is acceptable.
As long as you don't die on Eggman 2, which a lot of new runners think is a significant risk. And to be fair, it is if you don't really know what you're doing on Eggman, because avoiding the big death laser is really only a case of continually circle strafing him and then hover jumping at the right time. Because as long as you're fairly close to him, you can avoid the death laser very easily with a well-timed jump.
Shibaki about to go for FR skip.
Mm-hmm. And he's not Dark Pro, so he's not going for fast FR skip.
Yeah.
I still, to this day, don't really like this particular setup that he's using for FR skip, though. I don't like this old method that uses the higher angle.
Me neither. I always found it pretty sketchy. I've always had trouble with that, but if it works for him.
It's definitely sketchy because, I don't know if we mentioned before, while you're in that skewed gravity fall, there is a certain angle that you will hit if you try and go too steep, or rather too horizontal, where your gravity will just immediately reset. So for that setup that he's using, he's actually trying to stay as close to that reset point as possible to gain as much horizontal distance as he can. But we later discovered that you can take a angle that's steeper vertically, but it's actually faster and safer somehow. So we tend to prefer that nowadays because it doesn't risk resetting the gravity at every point.
Yes.
121 is a standard and respectable final rush though.
Yeah.
So Shibaki is looking like he is still going to finish with a low 35, which is extremely impressive in just an impromptu run like this. Bear in mind that his PB is 34.46. And he lost the best part of 30 seconds on Egg Golem, so if that hadn't happened, this would be about on par with world record.
Yeah.
So time for the end of the run is when the last hit on...
Oh no!
Wow! Wow.
So I assume he went for the homing attack on Shadow, but you kind of have to move out to the right a bit because otherwise you kind of get stuck behind him if you don't have a certain angle. And I assume he slipped up and went off too far and out of the homing attack range. And then just homing attacked into nothing. Oh boy, that's rough.
Is that on his screen?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Shibaki. Yeah, I feel a little bad for him now. Well, I kind of feel a little better knowing that that was no longer on potential world record pace, actually. Yeah. Alright, I'll finish my thought, though. The timing for the end of the run is at the end of the Shadow 2 fight, which is landing the final hit on him. The in-game timer stops when you kill Shadow, which is on the 5th hit, so that is when we end timing. It's the frame that you land the last hit. So accurate timing in this game is very convenient since we have very solidly defined start and end points.
Yeah, Darkpro just lost his run in Mission Street because Darkpro is probably of all the 4 runners currently playing the one who always goes for the riskiest strats.
Yeah.
And
as evidenced by the fact that he has fast FR in his PB.
Yeah, and he also goes for a really risky hover jump, really tight to skip a corner of the level. And he missed the hover jump, and then because he was trying to jump off a slanted surface, after he missed it, it's pretty hard to back up from it, because eventually you will keep your gravity kind of angled downwards, so it will pretty hard to make it back to the platform with the roads breaking away and such. So that's pretty dangerous.
One thing that's worth noting as well is that Shibaki just closed and reopened his game. That's not salt or anything. I mean, it might be after that run, but there's actually a practical reason for it, because at the start of Route 101, we get what we like to call a little puff of boost as you start the stage, which makes you go a little faster and does actually improve your time slightly. But for some reason, it only works on the first play of each play session. So when you first reach Route 101 in a run, you'll get it. But then, as long as the game is still open, you won't get that puff of boost anymore. So if we're going for serious world record attempts, we actually close and reopen the game every time we've reached Route 101 so that we can continue to get that puff of boost every run.
Yeah, it saves about 0.8 seconds, I think.
Yeah. And since the time save is just there and free, there's no reason to not go for it. Like, it's awkward to keep closing and reopening the game like that, but, you know, like I say, we're at the point at the world record level now where you want to take any little time save you can get. If it's a second, if it's half a second, it's worth going for if it's just there.
Mustache again with the run.
So Mustache is also on well, if he doesn't get real glitch, okay. So Mustache is on a prospective attempt. Seraphim is definitely in the lead for having progress through a run though, since he's on Green Forest, so we'll have to see how the wall run treats him. Hey Piner, don't worry, we'll just make sure that Shibaki and Darkpro literally tie the world record this session. And then Mustache will beat it, because that's what he does. Mustache will finally get that 33 we've all been looking for.
Yeah, Mustache has been a while ago when he was more active. He's been setting up potential splits for an ideal run. And we were looking at below 34:30, I think. His time was like 34:20 of his potential ideal run.
Something like that, yeah. And
Yeah.
he's had runs where he like hasn't been far off it as well. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't just some joke splits to run against and lose a lot of time. He's actually been competing against them.
Yeah. And I remember one time he had a run where he was like ahead of them, and then his game crashed in Eternal Engine very far to the end or something like that.
Yep.
That happened.
And people wonder why he stopped running this game as actively. And because like 9 times out of 10 as well, the times when he would actually manage to get a run that far, he'd just get really bad Death Chamber RNG.
Yeah.
So it's awful.
Yeah, Mustache hasn't exactly been treated well by the game.
Seraphim went for the loop speed trick there, but I think he homing attacked a little late and had already landed when he tried it, because I didn't see him get a homing attack there at all. But 126, maybe a little bit of a shaky Green Forest, but considering if you're not going for any of the major skips in Green Forest, a solid time would be 135. That's still, in that event, fairly respectable. Like, he's still saved in the region of 10 seconds over not going for any skips and just getting a clean stage.
Shibaki again with CE skip, but resetting the camera. And then failing to get on the rail repeatedly. Which, again, is much harder than you would think. Rails have a really odd hitbox, especially the ones on CE.
Yeah. There are some frustrating things that can happen with CE skip as well. If you get zipped to the right, then that is getting the skip. But there are a couple of details that really are involved in it. Like, the reason that it's as awkward as it is that we've looked at it properly and crunched the numbers. You need a specific range of X, Y, and Z coordinates to be able to hit the zip at all. But even once you get the zip, you need a correct speed range for it to work properly, because if you're going too slow, it doesn't work properly. And what you'll see instead is that you do go to the right, but you skid along the floor and essentially bonk along the floor. And I've had that multiple times, which basically means you did hit the skip, but you weren't going fast enough to trigger it properly, and that's really frustrating to see.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Also worth mentioning, Mustache's tail stages are extremely strong. At one point, and he might actually still, but definitely at one point he had all the individual level records for every tailed stage.
Yeah, Mustache is incredibly strong at tails. Like, he's strong at all the characters, but his tails is stronger than everyone else, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna look who has the records for all the levels. It might actually still be Mustache.
You pulling up TSC?
Yeah.
Alright. If there is I think a weakness that exists in Mustache's play, it's probably his knuckles. And like I mentioned before, he is still strong at all the characters. Like, you need to be a world record level runner. But he hasn't practiced knuckles in the same way that a lot of other people have. Because I mentioned before about how, like, we race a lot of Centurions, we do a lot of Centurions. Mustache does less of those because he just doesn't find them as fun to do. And the result is just that either his movement and strat execution can be a little wobbly, and he occasionally forgets where specific pieces are, which can lose bits of time.
Also, I just looked up, the only record Mustache still has is for Eternal Engine, but at one point, like maybe a year ago or something, he had the record for every tail stage, including Route 101.
I'm going to assume that the other records belong to a mixture of Chain Jumper, Axel, and Ethmar.
Chain Jumper and Ethmar, and Route 101, I believe, has ID Geek.
Ah, okay. Wow, ID Geek took it. Very nice.
Yeah, I think he took the record for Route 101. Yeah, he did.
I don't know if you saw how Seraphim just lost his run there.
I actually did not.
He was trying to squeeze the zero cycle on Mission Street, but he went too early on the hover jump off the weight elevator and didn't make the distance.
Options.
That's unfortunate. So our hopes are now on Mustache for a good run. It's now Mustache's turn to show us how it's done. Which is nice because he can definitely pull some good times out. This looks like it could maybe be a 48 check time he's going to get. 49, still decent. Still very decent.
Ah, he missed the rocket skip.
Oh, wow. ID Geek, go work on boss aisles. So yeah, Mustache was definitely on a very solid Metal Harbor prior to that, but then some mistakes there ended up with a 128, which for a lot of runners is still seen as like, you know, respectable, but at this top level, the runners are definitely looking for better times than that and are looking to get down to 120 or maybe even 119s and 118s with maximal optimization.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever gotten a 117 in a run.
I think 118 is like the best you can get in a run.
Mm-hmm.
Individual level runs for Metal Harbor, however, are a lot lower. The record for individual level is actually at 108, and that is because you don't have to go out of your way to grab upgrades and such.
Yeah.
Which is also why we kind of, not very seriously, but we kind of track story mode ILs, so where we just play as if we were in a run, to keep those separated, because actual individual level runs eventually use different strats.
Mm-hmm. The Metal Harbor IL times are also a lot lower because you start with the upgrades as well, so you're able to also use the bounce bracelet for skewed gravity and loop speed tricks.
Yeah, that too.
I really like the setup that Seraphim uses for that specific corner on Cityscape truck section there as well. I'm one of the only other people that does it like that, where I actually prefer to manually turn the corner instead of just using the speed pads. The truck section of Cityscape is a really important section for optimizing the level time, because you want to just use spin dashes to go down the hills as much as possible. One of the cornerstones of Sonic movement is that spin dashing is faster. But if you're going downhill, you want to just release a spin dash and let it go, because you continue to gain momentum until you hit the speed limit, basically. The only time that you want to unroll out of it and charge into the spin dash is when you're coming up to an extra hill, because if you're going too fast, then you're liable to just fly off the hill without sticking to the floor, which loses 2 to 3 seconds per hill. Some of the speed pads can cause that as well, because all the speed pads in this game aren't actually identical. Like, you'd think they're all just one object that have one effect, but all the different speed pads actually have their own speed values, which sounds weird. And I don't know why Sonic Team did that, but the different speed pads do make you go at different speeds. And in Cityscape truck section, it does make the difference between some speed pads making you stick to the floor and some making you fly in the air. It's kind of silly.
Even Metal Harbor, for example, you have instances where also Mustache just getting tree run with Moonshot. But in Metal Harbor we have instances, for example, of three speed pads being next to each other, and then these 3 speed pads actually have different speed values for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're right next to each other and seem like they should be one thing, but they're not.
It's extremely silly as well, because the left speed pad gives you tons of speed and launches you into the air, which is incredibly unhelpful.
Yeah, at the very end of Metal Harbor.
Yeah. Oh, that was weird for Shibaki. I'm glad to see that no one's been getting rejected by the Beetle Chain on Metal Harbor, though. Doing a precise spin dash jump, it's one of the simpler tricks in the game where we try to just bypass that Beetle Chain. If you're too far to the left when you start it, you can just jump into the first one and, you know, hit it. But there can also be a weird little thing that happens when you homing attack into the last one, where you don't get like any height or recoil from your homing attack and you just fall straight in the water. I don't really know what dictates that.
Yeah, what can also happen is that if you approach that on that spin dash jump, if you approach the last enemy from too far to the right, which will cause your homing attack to be angled too far to the left. So instead of the one you're aiming for, it will actually home onto the enemy before that, and then you will homing attack the enemy chain backwards. And there is no backing out of that, really.
The homing attack really has a mind of its own in this game. There are certain spots where it will ignore, it'll like borderline ignore some very obvious targets, and then there are certain spots where it will do its utmost to hit something that's behind you. It's really frustrating sometimes. The biggest instances that we see of it ignoring quote-unquote obvious targets is that most of the time the homing attack will try to avoid hitting targets that are above you. Like I mentioned before, that the homing attack launches you forward, it also launches you downwards a little bit, and it's quite uncommon for it to cause you to gain any height. So there are certain situations where you'll try and attack an enemy, such as ascending up the tree in Green Forest if you're not doing the wall run. But it's quite easy for the homing attack to just fail to hit the enemy because you weren't high enough when you tried to target the enemy. So Mustache still on a healthy looking run, going through that mission street. And I'm going to guess 45 checkpoint time.
Judging from I actually missed it, unfortunately, but judging from chat, he got a piece called Cold Iron Bars.
Oh, I missed that as well. He did? Really? Wow.
A few people in chat pointed it out, and I assume these people know what they're talking about because they also run this game. But yeah, that's a very rare piece, and it's extremely good. It saves. Oh no!
Oh! We shouldn't be saying things. We shouldn't be talking.
That's unfortunate.
Actually, wait. Are we crazy? Mustache's screen apparently has Japanese text. Are they reversed? Is that Shibaki's screen we're seeing? Or is he just playing with Japanese for... No. What?
No. It's fine for me. Like, he's currently in the instructions menu.
From what I can see, yeah. But... Oh, no. Okay. Whatever.
But yeah,
that's still really unfortunate, though.
Yeah, that strat where you go on the speed pad below the bridge can kind of sometimes kill you. There is a way to make it somewhat consistent, but if you're getting unlucky, or if you hover too early mid-air, it kills your momentum, and then you can eventually get stuck on that fence and fall to your death. Pretty unfortunate.
There's quite a bit more involved in taking that bottom zipper than it seems, because if you land on it awkwardly, like if you are hovering and then just try and drop on it, you can also clip straight through it.
Yeah, that happens too.
So we actually have specific ways that we land on the zipper, even though that sounds really silly.
And Shibaki just with a task run again.
Just because? Because why not?
I think he got task run.
Whatever it is, he's on a very solid Green Forest. This is going to be like a 121.
That's really good.
Yeah, a high 121. That's pretty solid. I believe Dark Pro's gotten like as low as a 115, but that is absolutely mental.
Yeah. Green Forest is a very inconsistent stage because it has a very bumpy floor, and it's extremely difficult to always keep your speed high and always stay on the floor. And every time you fly off just tiniest bit, you lose a ton of time. So you can get ridiculously low times in Green Forest, but it is very inconsistent to do everything perfectly.
As far as Shibaki himself goes as a runner, I don't really personally think he's weak at any element of the game. I think he's a fairly well-rounded runner. He's got quite a lot of strengths. If there's anything I had to nitpick on, maybe his bosses could maybe do some work. Like, I noticed that compared to the other runners, he doesn't attempt the fireball skip on King Boo Boo, for instance. So that's an instant few seconds that he's losing from strats. But I might say the same thing about Dark Pro as well, that in the last few months, Dark Pro has made like a massive qualitative leap, which has, allowed him to gain the world record. But,
it looks like
two pins have the same name in Japanese, because odd that he went to one first.
I can't imagine, because they're completely different in English. It's suffering from a stuffed nose and sad-eyed pumpkin.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine these hints being the same. So I assume that was a mistake.
Possibly, yeah. So, if that was a mistake, then there you go. There's a weakness, I suppose. Piece recognition, if that's something that applies. But Dark Rose plays definitely improved to the point where I would say for all of the newer cutting-edge strats and time saves, Dark Rose probably the most consistent user of them because he's just practiced them so much.
And
if there's a problem with Dark Rose play, it's also his bosses, I would say. Like, they're either too conservative or they're just a little shaky. Like, I don't understand why he uses the current strat that he does for Eggman 2, because it doesn't save any time and it just introduces extra risk. Aside from that, though, he's an incredibly solid player.
Yeah, and he goes for every risky strat you can get, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And Mustache also with C skip again.
Oh, yes. And of course, I don't want to leave Seraphim out from any critique, but if there's any critique that I could give to Seraphim compared to the other runners, he's just still less experienced than the other runners. Like, he hasn't been around as long.
He's fairly new. He's actually he's been around for less time than both Draco and me.
Yeah, like, we say he's fairly new. He's still been around for like over a year, but compared to the other runners in the race, Seraphim is still relatively new, but still a very solid runner in regards to that, and despite that. Like, when he was up and coming, it kind of impressed me how quickly he was able to improve his time.
Yeah.
There have been quite a few runners in the same vein lately. That it used to generally be harder back then due to how much smaller the community was and how fewer resources there were and how the Knuckles methodologies weren't ironed out, that it was comparatively harder to improve times, but I think it's easier for people to get into the game now and start improving their times. But even back then, Seraphim's improvement was quite impressive.
Yeah. And yeah, because question of game version came up, this is the PC version from Steam, which is generally the one that gets used in speedruns. It's most accessible for most people, and it also has the fastest load times, which is not too relevant anymore since the leaderboards are in in-game time to make up for load time differences. But still, that's what most people use. And in terms of glitches, the most different is actually the Dreamcast version. And for most other versions, pretty much everything works, aside from some small minor differences here and there. But all the main big strats that you are seeing will work on all the versions, with the exception of the Dreamcast version that has some bigger differences.
Yeah.
Dreamcast also, for example, has a completely different internal engine skip, which is 30 seconds faster, but Dreamcast has a lot of disadvantages as well. So nobody really runs it.
I mean, just the movement on Dreamcast is a lot harder than it should be.
Yeah, movement on Dreamcast is ridiculous. Just very hard to control. CGSS has been done on Dreamcast. Axel has done it. Axel Thunder.
Bloody ridiculous.
But
Speaking
I don't know.
of, there he is. What's up, Axel?
But yeah, given how precise, how smooth of movement you need for CGSS, and given how hard it is to precisely control on the Dreamcast version, it is not really reliable, I would say, to go for it.
Which is a big handicap considering the regular CGS is just flat out in Dreamcast version.
Yeah, there's an additional kill plane that makes it impossible to go for the regular Crazy Gadget skip.
I'm not certain if it's a case of an additional kill plane or just that your hitbox is larger. I'm not sure. Either way, you hit a kill plane when you try the regular spin dash jump on Dreamcast version. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing to note as well about comparing this game, well, HD versions of this game to SD versions is that the hunting stages tend to be a bit more of an ordeal because there are less hit monitors in the SD version.
Yeah.
For instance, in Meteor Herd, we see the runners start the stage by just going forward when the stage starts and immediately picking up a hit monitor. That hit monitor does not exist in the SD versions, such as GameCube and Dreamcast, so the closest hit monitor on those versions is like 8 seconds away, which is a massive handicap.
Yeah, I think on SD versions, most people would go into the middle in the tower and then climb up and get the hint on the platform above the first shortcut rocket.
Yeah.
Which isn't actually the closest from the start, but it's on a better position to get to most pieces from there because it's right next to the shortcut rocket.
It's the most central part of the stage as well. It's kind of the same deal with Pumpkin Hill, where wherever you are, say if you're on Ghost Train Mountain and you get a piece 1 and then you need to go for a hint, it's generally advisable to move towards the center of the stage if you can, because then you're more likely to be closer to where you need to be next from there.
Yeah, but stuff, for example, in Meteor Herd, you want to restart for some first pieces you get because they're just really far away. And you can only really do that on the HD version. Because you get the hint right at the start, so you immediately see what piece you have. But if you play on Dreamcast or on GameCube, you have to take like 10 seconds to get to the first hint, and only then you see what piece you have. And by then you already spent too much time in the stage to justify restarting for a better piece.
Yeah. So, long story short, if you're running on Dreamcast, just get in front of the shortcut rocket for piece 1 on Meteor Herd. So we see Dark Pro just finishing Mission Streak with a 201, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
Whilst Shibaki's on with Hidden Base, let's see if he has a little bit of extra luck with GC Skip this time, which I noticed a couple of runs ago he was really struggling with. We were talking about the different versions a while ago. We call this GC Skip because this skip that Shibaki's attempting here is free on GameCube version. That wall that he's just passing there on the right is not properly solid on GameCube version, so you can just fly straight through it, because the collision works differently. But in the PC version, you need to go right through the corner of the wall, because I think we mentioned before that whilst you're hovering, if you hover against a wall, it will just drag you down. But hovering against 2 walls at the same time cancels that effect, and you can just clip straight through that corner. So if you are precisely in the corner, you can just go through it without getting dragged down.
Yeah, you need like a pretty precise 45-degree angle directly in the corner to make it through there without losing any height. And also it's called GC Skip because I think initially it was thought to be impossible on any other version but GameCube, but then people figured out that you could go through that corner. So they called it GC Skip.
Yeah, at that point the name kind of stuck. It's kind of like how we call the early cycle a Mission Streak Zero cycle, because for the longest time we thought the primary first cycle was indeed the first cycle. So rather than doing the sensible thing and rebranding the new faster cycle that we could get, the first cycle, we just kept the name first cycle and then made the new fastest cycle even faster, so it was Zero cycle.
Yeah, and in ILs you even have or in ILs and in TASs you even have instances of like -1 and -2 cycle.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's really good. Oh dear. This is why I hate it when people call it Crazy Gadgets Skip. No, it's silly.
I think it's good, it's funny.
It's Super Skip.
It's Skip.
It's
skip. It's the skip.
It does skip it, but if you don't do it, does that mean you're skipping the skip though?
Yes.
You don't go faster than that, Vendor. Oh, I swear. I'm not going to rest though until the community collectively calls the quote-unquote Russian skip in Cosmic War the Vostok 1 space voyage. I'm intent on that. That is the only name. It's correct as well, because if you mess it up then you burn up on re-entry. So, I think Dark Pro Stream's having a little bit of a hiccup right now, but we still got Shibaki, who's getting through Pyramid Cave decent pace. see when he's gonna get this door clip. We're looking at a sub 50 door clip. He's got a few seconds to line this up. Okay, failed attempt. Still 50 door clip. I'd still say that's pretty decent.
The door clip is really precise, but if you have some experience with how exactly you can set yourself up, you can get it consistently fairly well.
If what Monkey says in the chat is true, that is very, very archetypal Dark Pro to take a break so he can get some chocolate milk. That is Dark Pro all over.
Yeah.
He's powered by the chocolate milk. And with that, he's finishing the Green Forest with a 127. Ooh, Shibaki's struggling a bit.
Yeah, that
these
was
loop
very
speed triggers will
risky.
get you.
Yeah, that's what I've been talking about earlier. About that setup for the gravity bounce and how dangerous it is to go for it even if you mess it up.
That's a good example of what I mean as well. When I mentioned earlier in Green Forest about avoiding loop speed triggers just to set up the position on the side of the loop, that's exactly what I mean. If you just walk into a loop speed trigger, it just forces you to run very quickly, and you can't control yourself. So, like, this is a deceptive game. There is always a lot more going on than there seems. Yeah. Even though stuff looks very simple. Like, this game is a very big offender for, oh, this looks easy, I bet I can do this. And then you try it and it's like, no, this is actually really hard.
Yeah,
there's a lot of hidden stuff going on under the surface.
Yeah, you often to learn tricks, you actually should talk to people who you see doing them. Because most likely there's some details you have to pay attention to that you don't catch if you just watch it. Yeah.
Like, part of the reason that the community for this game is as active as it is that it's kind of a collaborative effort to even get used to a lot of the tricks and skips that, for a lot of people, it's a case of, how the hell do I do this? Please help me.
Yeah.
Because they're really difficult to learn just by flying blind and just trying to infer how they work from watching people do it. Or just from trying to apply knowledge based on the mechanics of the game and how you know that they work. Mustache also struggled a little there on Pumpkin Hill because it's a small instance of what I mean about piece knowledge being a little shaky. He had Tombstone by some grass for piece 1, which many runners know it's at the top of Church Mountain. It's behind a tombstone, which you can punch through. But I think he got a little confused and thought that he had Sleep with the Dead or something for piece 1 because he was kind of dithering all over the place for a couple of seconds. But he's waiting. He didn't actually wait for the IGT strat there, or was it because he had a slower start?
Yeah, he got stuck on the box.
Okay, yeah.
So if you lose time on the start, it's you shouldn't go for the IGT strat because it's already tricky enough to catch the cycle. And oh boy,
that clip. He's given up on this run then. Wow. It's unfortunate. And he's learning how to play again. So back to Prison Lane with Seraphim, which pace looks incredibly solid actually, if I do say myself. Like 124 checkpoint there is actually really, really good.
Yeah, that's really good. I usually get like 126 if I'm lucky.
I commonly see like 128 because I'm just trash at Prison Lane. I've always been trash at Prison Lane compared to my skill level. That feel when like a 150 Prison Lane is still known as a Draco tier Prison Lane, even though I don't get 150s anymore.
That sticks to you forever.
I know, it's bad. I'm proud of it though. I finally got something named after me and it's doing something badly. I'm proud. So I'm struggling a little there with the initial loop skip in Metal Harbor, which is, like everything else we've been highlighting, is also more awkward than it seems. And then Mustache and Shibaki with the simultaneous CE skips. Very nice.
Shibaki again struggling with the camera.
He's just got too much speed, man. He's going too fast. Because that is literally what dictates whether you get bad camera. It's based on the amount of speed that you have when you do it. If you have too much speed, you get the bad camera angle. So Shibaki's just too good. And then he gets rail glitched.
Yeah, sometimes your controls get kind of stuck when you try to jump off the rail, and then you just get sent straight into the pit.
That's why I actually go for a rail switch jump there, which is a rail switch is performed by holding left or right as you jump from a rail, and you will do a sharp left or right jump to try and switch between parallel rails. You
It's
can
not
do it on
really-
singular rails as well.
It's not really a jump, actually. You don't really get any height, you just kind of drop off to the side.
Yeah. Point being, though, that it is different to just doing a regular jump, which risks getting that odd glitch there where you just fly into the pit. So instead, you can do a rail switch jump to the side and avoid it.
About rail switches, a lot of people actually, at least that was my personal experience, when they play this casually and they try to like jump off a rail and then they accidentally rail switch, but they don't really know what they're doing, so they just try to jump, but they're holding a direction while they do it, and then they just rail switch, and then they wonder why they don't get any height, and they just fall off, and then people don't really understand how it works, and then think like the mechanics are really inconsistent in that regard. But it's just a matter of what you do with your analog stick while you perform an action.
The mechanics definitely are very consistent. The only exception to that is when Mustache says that the light dash in this game works, which he's wrong about. Like, the light dash in this game doesn't work, and I don't want to hear any arguments to the contrary. It's quite an instructive instance as well of what we're saying about rail switch jumps and accidentally getting them, etc. It's related to a reason why I recommend that people learn the different setups and variants of major skips, because we've seen Final Rush skip when people have been at the end of runs where they do the bounce strat. There's also a bounceless variant that can be done which uses either a regular jump or a rail switch jump. Either is acceptable. That's what I actually use in runs, but what I commonly see runners accidentally doing, because most people prefer the bounce method, every so often people accidentally get a rail switch jump, and then as soon as they get that, they think they've messed the level up and they just restart. And that's a shame because, as I say, that's what I do to perform the skip, so just because that accidentally happens, you really don't need to restart over. It's well worth knowing how to use the various setups that you have available to you.
Yeah, you can keep the skewed gravity no matter if you bounce or if you're in a regular jump or in a rail switch.
Yeah. It's like, I can only imagine the number of runs that people must have lost to doing that when they still had a perfectly good attempt going and they just didn't know how to do that variant of the skip. So I really do recommend that people learn how to do all the skips in this game in the various ways they are possible.
Also, Mustache going for a really risky hop over the fence there to skip the elevator. Usually on that small elevator you see people stopping there, and then as soon as the elevator starts moving up, you can walk forward and do a full jump, and then you kind of clip through the bottom of the platform and it puts you on top. But what Mustache did there is he didn't actually wait for it, he just kept on running and then did a small hop on the very narrow fence and jumped from there, which is incredibly risky, but saved like a second.
He generally has, I'd say, an easier time than other players, though, just because his tails movement, like we've been saying, is generally better than the other players, so he seems to have an easier time. And I feel a little bad for Seraphim there, losing his run like that, but he really should have angled himself a little further left there to avoid colliding with the floor and fence there when going for the loop speed. .21 Wild Canyon for Dark Pro is definitely very respectable. I'd say, what do you think should be agreed on for like average times for hunting stages?
I would say about 21 to 22 for Wild Canyon, like 35 to 40 for Pumpkin Hill. Aquatic Mine has lots of variants, possibly like 35 to 40 as well, but it varies a lot. It can go as low as like 20 seconds, but it can also get to 50 or higher. Death Chamber is hard to tell because you have the death strats, which mess with the timer a little. But going for deathless times, you usually are happy if you get like sub 1 minute.
Yeah.
For deathless. And Meteor Herd, you can get like 40 to 45 on average, I guess.
I think you're like a little more optimistic than I am in general. I tend to view Wild Canyon as like 25 is pretty average, I think.
Yeah.
Pumpkin Hill, like 40 to 45. I'd probably agree with Aquatic Mine and Death Chamber though, and I see like 45 as an average for Meteor Herd.
Options. File select. File
But it's all just kind of relative to what you are generally getting.
Yeah.
And they're all affected by the free pieces that you get as well, so it's always a
Yeah,
bit
it's
inconclusive.
just a lot of variance in the levels.
Mhm.
よし完璧だぜ
So all of our runners just kind of stuck in the start of the game for now. This is what we in the community are very familiar with seeing a lot of the time. It's really, really hard at the world record level to get a run out of the first few stages of the game.
Yeah.
I would say that generally speaking, once you see a runner like into I'd say Mission Street and beyond, you've generally got a really good attempt going.
Yeah.
But as
The
far
early
as
game
getting
is
your
just
hopes
really
up
rough.
at actually driving a PB home, I wouldn't start getting excited until after Death Chamber.
It's probably the healthiest to don't get excited ever, because
I mean,
everything in this run can kill you.
Yeah, especially when you're going for stuff like CGSS.
Yeah.
But I would
And-
say for most runners, past Death Chamber is when you can start getting hype or start worrying. Certainly when I start getting more anxious.
Yeah. But generally, Final Rush Skip, for example, is considered to be fairly easy for high-level runners. But if you're like on a really good run and you're nervous, it's really easy to just mess it up because you're shaky or you get the timing wrong or something like that.
Yeah, like, we generally find the skip fairly easy to execute just because, you know, we've ran the game for so long, we've practiced the skip so much, and it just kind of comes naturally, but objectively, that was a 13 rocket grab from
That's
Darkfall. That was extremely
really good.
Objectively speaking, though, with FR skip, the execution and the angles required for it are really quite strict with not much room for error. Like, you need a very precise angle and your timing needs to be spot on with when you're resetting gravity and turning. So, like Nim says, if you're getting like nervous and anxious and making small mistakes, then you can easily ruin a FR skip attempt from just not paying enough attention or panicking.
Yeah. Also for FR skip, there's what Draco mentioned earlier, for example, with how Shibaki does with his angle with FR skip. There's different variations you can do, and there's a lot of stuff you can actually vary in that skip, but at some point you have to figure out a way that works for you and then strictly stick to that. So the angle, the timing and such, and even how fast you turn all determines if the skip will work out for you. And when you first practice it, you have to find something. You have to find a specific combination of these different things that work together, and then stick to precisely that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important that you're aware of every detail that you do during the skip.
Darkpro finishing up another Shadow 1 and entering Green Forest, so once again we're going to be confronted with the wall run, which I think a lot of the runners have actually been having a pretty good time with the wall run overall this session. Like, it's not been tripping people up as much as I thought it might. Mustache has also switched to using the new setup for C skip, and it pays dividends. He's just got another C skip in.
And again, all 4 runners with a run.
Yep. He did get railed just there, though, but he quickly reset the camera, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Don't get railed.
Yes.
Don't get railed. Don't. Okay, good. We're in. He survived. Fine.
Not my day.
This looks like a really good truck section that he's having as well. Alright. So, this first loop skip on Green Forest, like, they're pulling it off with no real issues, but it's actually a little dangerous, that first loop skip, because you need to make sure that you go rightwards enough to get out of the first part of the like half-pipe loop. It's quite easy to get stuck on it, but the camera can also really not cooperate very well and make it so that you can't see where you're going, and moving against the camera is awkward to say the least.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in this game that are just really awkward to pull off.
Another task run from Dark Pro, and that was extremely low as well, so I thought it
Yeah.
was actually too low to land that. That was really good. This is incredibly solid. This might actually be like a 116. 1/7. Wow, that is incredibly good.
Yeah, that's about as good as you can see anyone get in a
I'm
run.
actually checking something here. As far as our community spreadsheet goes, he just set an Hero Story IL world record.
Yeah, I think he got better before. He just doesn't really care much for these spreadsheets that we
Yeah, I may
so
have to
he
update
doesn't
that in that case.
he doesn't keep track of his best times on there. I'm pretty sure he's done better before, but that is incredible.
Yeah,
Still.
that is really, really good. And yeah, like, still rank D. It's kind of a weird thing in this game that the time that it takes to complete the stage is only one of the factors that goes into your rank, because rank is, for M1s at least, mission 1s, which is these, your rank is entirely determined by your score, and time is one of the things that goes into score. So if you get a fast time, there are very few missions where that's good enough for an A rank. It's mostly Knuckles' missions that you'll get an A rank from going fast.
Yeah, but also in Knuckles missions, it's because every piece that you collect quickly also gets an extra score bonus.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you actually want to get A ranks, you will have to do a lot of extra stuff that will cause you to go slower, especially levels that have like major skips. You won't be able to do the skip and get an A rank, such
Yeah.
as Crazy Gadget, for example, or Final Rush.
So Shibaki attempted the TAS wall run there again, but he actually made a mistake that time, which is, I'm surprised that it took that long for someone to mess it up, because that is a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah. What was the best attempt until now? Earlier, Shibaki had a run that was on low 35 pace, which is within like 20 seconds of the world record.
Yeah, I'd say Shibaki was within 30 seconds of his PB, easy,
Yeah.
until like golden.
Yeah, and even afterwards, he was on a really good pace.
So let's see how Dark Pro does. It's worth noting as well that as far as runs themselves go, Dark Pro's really got his work cut out for him for starting runs, because his PB has an extremely good Wild Canyon. Like, I think he got like a 15 in his PB,
That was easy.
which you'd be very hard-pressed to run against. A 44 checkpoint there at the start of Mission Street is really, really good, though. Oh, that was strange. That probably has just cost the zero cycle, because in order to make the zero cycle at the end of the stage, you really need clean movement throughout the whole stage, from getting to the first weight to then reaching the back barrel after this weight elevator here. And there's really not much room for error, so we'll see.
Yeah, getting the fastest cycle on Mission Street is really tight.
You could still get this, actually.
Oh, that
That's
was
very
close.
impressive. That is very impressive.
Saved with the hopper jump.
Like, he made a substantial mistake on the cage skip, and he still made that. That is really
Yeah.
impressive.
And that hover jump he goes at the end for to skip that corner, he goes for it extremely risky. He walks up extremely low to get a lot of speed from the slope, and then does an extremely tight hover jump to hover over. Most people don't do it that low.
It's a little safer than it looks clipping back in where you land though, because the fence isn't actually solid when the ground is sloping and the wall's curving.
Yeah.
Like if you try and land lower down, it's actually more dangerous because that part of the wall is solid. But if you land higher up, the wall isn't solid. So it's actually a little safer to land higher up.
Yeah. But still, running that far down on the slope is extremely risky.
So Darkro's definitely got a very healthy attempt going right here. I'm gonna wait till the end of Aquatic Mine and then do another split comparison. And bear in mind that the RTA difference for Darkro is more significant due to his worse loading times.
Yeah, Darkro has really bad loads, which is why he has currently with the world record by in-game time, which is what we currently, what we mainly use to sort the leaderboards by. But Shibaki actually has a faster real time.
By quite a wide margin as well compared to the IGT. That's a poor piece too. Although he's going to try for a wall run here. We haven't seen much of this yet.
Oh yeah.
And he even went for the pulley grab. Nice. That is, as far as strats go, that's one of my only actual contributions to this game. That I discovered there that with a wall run, you can jump straight up to the ceiling and then glide straight to the pulley, which saves a little bit of time if executed correctly.
Yeah.
But even though that was a poor piece too, and getting to it was a little awkward, a 34 is still very solid for Aquatic Mine.
And the wall run itself that was discovered by Axel Thunder, like maybe about a year ago, I would say. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And basically all you need to do is you run and you, towards one of those signs, and then you do a small hop, and then for a short moment where you touch the sign, you will actually be running on it, and during that time you have to do a punch, and that will keep your momentum up onto the wall, and then you can run on it.
Yeah. Honestly, the discovery of wall runs in Aquatic Mine really changed the way that we play the stage altogether.
Yeah.
It really redefined the way that the strats work for moving from piece to piece.
And on top of that, it looks extremely cool.
Yeah, totally. If only it wasn't so awkward to actually execute quickly.
I find that like Aquatic Mine wall runs get easier the less you think about them.
That may be true, yeah. I still struggle with them quite a lot, but I'm just not very comfortable with them.
Yeah.
Seraphim's going to get another attempt at the Green Forest wall run coming up. It's the Redemption. See how he goes. Because I would like to talk about Darkro, but honestly, once you've seen Route 101 a couple of times, there's not much more to say about what's going on during it. It's a nice little, like, 2 minutes of downtime in the run, basically. For the viewers, at least. For the runner, you do have to pay fairly close attention to what's actually going on because of the danger of just drifting into walls and slowing down, but for the viewer, it's definitely the most relaxing part of the run.
Yeah, that was a pretty safe moonshot from Seraphim.
Just nice and steady.
Yep.
No reason to risk it all on saving a couple of seconds there when, you know, the object is to finish runs.
Yes!
Meanwhile, Darkro's coming fairly close to the end of Route 101.
Huh. No problem.
One thing that's definitely worth noting here at the end of Route 101 is you're continually avoiding cars throughout Route 101, which is important because the cars will slow you down, so we're trying to avoid them anyway. But once you reach the last straight of Route 101, you'll notice that if there are any cars in front of you, they just immediately despawn. And sometimes the cycles line up in such a way that that blue car can be right in the way, and you might collide with it when it's about to despawn. That's the worst thing that can happen because hitting the blue car as it despawns causes it to take the whole stage with it. So you despawn the whole stage and then you just fall and die and lose over 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the single worst time loss in the game. Like, for this run, that is the single biggest mistake for causing a huge amount of time loss. And that is followed by, I would say, missing Eternal Engine skip loses about a minute, just over a minute.
Yeah, if you fail it at the end.
And missing King Boom Boo 1 cycle loses about 40 seconds.
Yeah.
As far as singular mistakes go, those are the most severe in the run, I think.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah, you're not gonna see the Route 101 happening a lot though, because it's really precise.
Mm-hmm. Like, most people get it by accident more than anything else, and then they don't get it again.
It happened. I run this since over 2 years, and it happened to me once only.
Yeah. I think Prism still has a highlight of it happening to him, and it's quite the reaction.
Yeah.
That's a really precise hover jump that Darkbro does there as well. For the what we call the maze skip there, when you go along the tops of the doors and walls in that mini maze there, the method that we normally use is to land on the corner and then do a hover jump from there with some running momentum. Darkbro seems to prefer just landing on the door and doing a hover jump off that, since it's a more direct path, but it needs to be an incredibly precise hover jump to make it from there.
Yeah, it's also kind of hard to just hit the door, land on it, because it's really thin.
Yeah. It's one of the circumstances where Tails' hitbox being as big as it is actually a helpful thing. There is a video highlight of the Route 101 glitch happening, but I don't really want to dig it up what I'm going to be doing here. And
Seraphim just lost his run because he missed the hover jump off the weight.
Yeah, that's the same thing that happened last time when I highlighted that, so he's kind of struggling with that, it seems. I think he's just trying to squeeze time where he can, but he's not judging it correctly.
Yeah, Mission Street is a really rough stage, which is kind of funny because it was actually the most relaxing stage until the strat for the Zero Cycle was discovered, and now it's extremely tight and risky.
Yeah, when we just when we just went for first cycle, Mission Street was borderline free. As long as you were like decent at the movement, then you have a lot of time that you can afford to lose and still comfortably make first cycle. Like the cage skip was the main thing that a lot of people struggled on, since you do need a good hover jump to get over it. And I devised a strat that makes it free, which involves like going for the hover jump, but then if you miss it, you just attempt a second normal hover jump, but let the robot on the other side of the cage attack you, because the laser blast actually gives you a damage boost over the cages. And using that damage boost, which is a second try cage skip, as long as you're going fairly fast, you can still make the first cycle really comfortably.
Yeah,
so that was kind of the meta back then.
Yeah, first cycle is fairly easy to get.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you go for the strats at the beginning that are required for Zero Cycle and then miss them, it is actually fairly easy to miss first cycle as well.
Funny how that works out. Darkbro getting a nice 131 there. He got a very unusual like loop speed gravity bounce there at the end as well, which I've seen some more of lately. It seems to be a fairly new thing. That it's a different approach to doing the last gravity bounce that gives you loop speed at the same time, which is really nice. That looks like he's struggling to get a Bugs on Patrol. There it is. So, one of the age-old debates that runners have in this game is 16:9 versus 4:3. Because this is the HD re-release, you do have the option of playing in 4:3 aspect ratio if you want, which I personally use just because I prefer how it feels and performs. The disadvantage of it, though, is that with the lower field of view, you don't have like as much peripheral vision as in the 16:9 version, and Darkbro exploited that when Death Chamber was spawning to actually see the piece spawn out of the edge of his eye.
Tag is boring. I'm out here. Finally decided to
What
show
is
up,
he doing?
eh?
There we go.
Okay.
He'll run with that piece.
Bring it on.
So that is indeed on this path.
Intruder has been located.
Copy that.
If anyone knows Death Chamber well, it is Darkbro. The amount
Yeah.
of research that he's put into this stage is honestly kind of scary. Ask him to show you his Excel spreadsheets. You'll wish that you hadn't asked.
Do you know how many pages it had? I forgot. It's ridiculous.
It's got some hundreds of pages, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. He's gathered a lot of data on Death Chamber and crunched a lot of numbers. He's like, oh, this piece progression loses this many tenths of seconds if you do this, and etc. But it's taught us a lot about how the pieces in this game actually work, so it's a lot of valuable work that we definitely owe some thanks to him for.
Yeah, wasn't he also the one that first came up with the death strats in the first place? Wasn't he the first one to use that?
I'm not sure. That's going back donkey's years for me to remember. And the hourglass skip, nice.
Wow, nice.
So what just happened there on King Boom Boo was previously an IL only strat until I think it was jointly kind of Darkbro and a Sinister Taco working independently of each other.
File select.
Working on a way to make that IL strat more RTA viable, where you get behind King Boom Boo and hit the hourglass early, which is a lot more awkward than it seems because the hourglass and the ghost holding it only have a solid hitbox at certain points in the fight. So it's as much about getting behind him as it is manipulating the hourglass to actually be possible to damage. And now let's see Darkbro. Yep.
2 bounces.
He's using his tried and tested method. I've asked Darkbro about this, like, oh, how do you get super bounces so
3
consistently? And he said, I just slam my hand on the controller as fast as I can.
Yeah, that's how you do
So,
it.
pure brute force apparently is how he gets these.
Wow, that's an incredible...
That is very
goal.
good. He's not... he's kind of going for the IGT strat, but he messed it up a little bit. Because he... Actually, I'm not sure. He might have been going for the victory bounce, but then he might have just gone for the death abuse when he didn't get it. Because we go by IGT, there's a small optimization that's possible to use at the end of Egg Golem, where if you dive in the sand as the fight ends, the timer stops when you die, but the actual fade to black of the death animation takes a second or two to play, and if the victory animation plays in that time, then the death animation never plays. So the in-game timer stops early, and then you finish the stage, which, you know, gives you a faster in-game time. So what we aim to do is actually kill ourselves after finishing off Egg Golem, because in order to do that too quickly and trigger the death animation for real, you need very optimal movement getting into the sand, which is actually difficult to do. So most of the time it's considered safe to just kill yourself after, because you won't be fast enough to cause an actual death. Vorpal, go work on Rocket Knight.
Options. File select. File select. Store.
Darkbro getting so
waiting
early
on
for the cycle that he actually has to wait.
Yeah, it's like he was actually too fast for first cycle. That was quite something. And he's going for the positional setup this time and struggling with it a little actually. I think he's getting a little ahead of himself and not judging the jump correctly. Yeah, he's jumping a little too early. Because you need to start from the correct place, hard up against the wall, and then you need to jump at a specific point, and he's going slightly too early. So if he delays that jump by just a little bit, then he will be home free. This'll work. There you go. Told you. And then he reset. Poor Darkbro. Such is life. And now we are all back on City Escape. We're blessed.
Welcome to SA2.
Mm-hmm.
Options. File select. File select. Story.
So
Looks like
let's take
Dark
bets.
Pro is on to get chocolate milk again.
again, he continually needs his fuel. So let's take bets on who the next person is to get CE skip. Who do you think?
Shibaki.
I'm gonna go. I mean, I've got to go with my boy Mustache. He's graced us with his presence for this event, and that means he's gonna get CE skip because that's apparently how that works. Go on, Shibaki, miss. I shouldn't be saying that, but you know, I want to win. There you go. I would actually offer to put money on this, but I don't know if that would be illegal for some reason. We'll put bits on it. Yes, I win!
Oh. Alright, okay.
Alright, pay up.
I'll give you a handshake when we meet at ESA.
Get in. It's more than I expected to get. Alright, so
Options.
Mustache on a potential run now. Good, no rail glitch.
File select. Story.
Yes, these are all live runs. There's no pre-recording going on here. We have 4 people all doing runs, and me and Nim are both providing commentary for you.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major
A fine way to spend a Saturday, IMO.
I agree.
It's funny that as well, because Mustache used to have a lot of trouble with CE skip. I still remember the streams where he'd just sit there for upwards of an hour trying to get CE skip and not getting it.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that he became a lot less active in this game. Like RNG and CE skip, he was just like, nah, I can't be bothered with this anymore.
Yeah, I remember like sitting until late in the evening, even late at night, often, and just hang out in Mustache's stream while he grinds the E-skip.
Yeah, basically. Those were the best times to have like group calls as well.
Yeah. But then the thing is, whenever he got CE skip, then it was lit.
Mm-hmm. And then sometimes he would just reset on Wild Canyon because
Yeah.
because that's just how this game works. Dark Rose also back on a run. Interesting. Well, we say a run. It's never a run, but it's an attempt at a run. Carpool, alright. Probably a piece 3 in the bottom section then with these first 2 pieces. Yeah, oh, he's actually flying blind without a hint here. This looks like... I shouldn't say anything. I shouldn't...
There we go. CE skip and reset in Wild Canyon.
I know, I'm too good at calling these things. I should just go.
Story select.
Okay, let me try a different tack. This next run from Mustache's world record.
I'm so excited to be here for this.
I know, yeah. What a time to be alive. The 120 from Dark Pro, though, definitely can't be overstated. 120 is a really, really solid city escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's unfortunately just not really too much to say / going on until someone is like well out of the city escape and getting a run going, because this is just a very reset intensive game at the start.
Select.
I always kind of get forcibly reminded of what it used to be like watching Pokemon runs. All those starter resets. Those were the days. So Dark Pro's pieces are front of the double containers, I believe that is, yeah. A very good piece 1.
Options.
Oh, Shibaki
Ooh, very
just
nice free
reset
piece.
on CE skip. I was looking at Deepro, but I assume he got it on however many try.
I don't know.
And then reset, but
Dark Pro just got another 20 Wild Canyon though.
yeah,
Very
that's
nice.
really good. Also,
Yeah, don't have the free piece.
something I want to point out about Wild Canyon, something cool you can do at the start, is you can tap your camera control button a little, and that turns the camera a bit to the side, and the camera will clip into the treasure chest behind you, and there you can potentially see a free piece that spawns there. So that's why at the beginning of Wild Canyon you see the runners wait like half a second to turn the camera a little so it clips into the box.
Yeah, there are a hell of a lot of free piece checks that are possible in Wild Canyon, and it's definitely more prevalent than in the other stages because of how small the stage is and that there are no underground pieces. Because Wild Canyon is the first stage that comes up before you have the shovel claws, there are no pieces in the stage that are underground, so they're all either exposed or they're just under an obstacle like a treasure chest, so there is always a lot of free pieces that you can keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
Which makes it a much harder stage to play well than it seems, because in a lot of stages you're just paying attention to like where you're going, but in Wild Canyon you kind of have to be looking at the whole screen all the time, which is quite difficult to do and actually still move well.
Yeah, Wild Canyon, if you play it longer, for example in Knuckles Centurion where you play 20 at one time, it is really exhausting to play because you constantly have to look around all over your screen.
Mm-hmm. It's like, you wouldn't think it because it is the shortest and simplest Knuckles stage, but there's just so much free piece stuff going on that you're constantly paying attention. I mean, of course, the game can always solve that problem for you by just giving you suspended ceiling to center of the 8th pillar. Like, there ain't no free pieces involved there, but there's a lot of traveling.
Story.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major roads and capture the suspect.
So Dark Pro looks like he's getting on what could be shaping up to be a nice decent run again, going up to Metal Harbor. Honestly, I would say that Metal Harbor is one of Dark Pro's strongest stages as well. He's put a lot of work into it, and he's one of the only runners that aims to get sub 120 in Metal Harbor.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he does with it.
Yeah, Dark Pro's Metal Harbors and Green Forests are incredibly strong.
It's definitely very helpful to be strong at the start of the game, since then you can get more runs going. I would still say that to this day, I think the start of the game, like up to and including Pumpkin Hill, has always been my Achilles heel. Like, I'm not as strong at the start of the game as I am at the mid and end game. End game is definitely my strongest point from Eternal Engine onwards, because I've just practiced the skips in the later stages so much. So a very tasty looking Metal Harbor there from Dark Pro with a 47 check. A little thing as well there being that when he did that last spin dash jump across the second chain of beetles, he went for the second to last beetle, which looks like it will be slower because you're homing attacking more, but you're actually waiting for the rocket platform to fully appear so that you can grab the rocket, so it's actually no slower to do that because you're waiting for the rocket anyway.
Options. File select. File
And then a very nice end resulting in a 121, a very low 121 Metal Harbor. Yeah, so that was quite nice. There was a couple of mistakes near the start as well, so to get a time like that with some obvious mistakes is very impressive. And we generally make quite a big deal about quote-unquote obvious-looking mistakes like I am, even though it's stuff that only loses either fractions of seconds or full seconds, but just because of the amount of history surrounding this game and the number of years of IL work that's gone into this game. Like, this game was out in like 2001 when the IL tracking site Sonic Center was new. I'll actually link it for anyone who's curious in the chat. But this was the game that was like out when the Sonic Center was new, so this is the most ran game on the Sonic Center. So people have been like doing ILs of this game for like 15 years. And that being the case, the times expected in the stages have gotten really, really optimized. So we make quite a deal about things that lose fractions of seconds.
Options. File select. File select. Story select.
Okay, Mustache, no problem. I'll make the skip work for you this run. In fact, no, next run. This run you're gonna have a problem, but then next run you'll hit it. So what do you think for next wall run? Do you think we're going to see another task run or no?
I would actually, yeah, probably, knowing D-Pro.
Yes, D-Pro, that's a good point. He doesn't really take half measures.
It always depends on which panel you land on the tree if you can attempt task run, but I feel like D-Pro hits it a good amount of times.
Let's see then. Oh! Loop speed triggers.
I did the opposite of calling it.
Again, we just shouldn't talk.
Yeah.
We're here for the wrong reason. I'm assuming that little hiccup there happened because from what it looked like to me, he slid backwards slightly onto the loop speed trigger.
Yeah.
Like very, very slightly.
Yeah, that looping is kind of weird. When you try to land on its side, it kind of just... Sometimes you don't really stand on it, sometimes you just kind of slip off backwards. And then recovering from that is very difficult or close to impossible.
So here's the CE skip that I promised Mustache. Told you.
Oh.
So, right. I control this game. I keep saying that I control this game. So now Mustache is going to follow up with a truck section that only comes off one hill. And then he's going to get the 21:39 optimal time in Bigfoot. I'm not doing that. I'm also not counting that as coming off a hill in truck section because that's very inconsistent to manage to avoid that. You need to be at the very left when you go under the somersault barrier. And that's more difficult than it sounds because the collision is really, really janky. And since he didn't come off any hills, I will count that as one hill. So hey, I was another prediction correct. There you go.
Incredible.
I'll make you eat those words.
But yeah, getting stuck on the sticking to the first hill is pretty tricky. There's different spots actually for the somersault barrier, together with different angles that you can pass through that make you stick to it. But generally, most people go for the very left side with a very slight left angle. But then a lot of times you can get stuck on the left wall of the barrier, and then you just kind of get stuck somersaulting into that wall.
Yeah.
So it's it's tricky. And it's not entirely consistent, I think, either.
Like, it looks like people are just, like, messing around, whatever, when it happens. It's like, dude, why are you doing that? But then you try it for yourself and you realize how difficult it can be to actually avoid when you're going for the left side.
Yeah.
Like, the game just does it. There's no real other way to put it. So, Shibaki and Seraphim are actually really nicely tied up, it looks like, coming into the start of Green Forest here. They're only a couple of seconds apart. So this is potentially all up to how they get their respective Green Forests. Like, even if they both get a good wall run and, say, a moonshot or a task run, the general quality of the Green Forests that they can get can really dictate whether they'll be either ahead or behind afterwards. Seraphim did not go for a spin dash storage there before that second spring though, which is a little odd. It's another application of this spin dash storage there that I mentioned about somersaulting and spin dashing being on the same button, and you need to hold the B button to start charging a spin dash, so there's a delay period before it. If you hold the B button before you enter a spring, and then you continue to hold it through the spring animation and when you land, the game basically remembers the duration for which you hold the B button, and then it removes the charge time from when you exit the spring. So that's a small optimization that we try to use in Green Forest there.
You can actually let go of the B button during the spring and vine animation as long as you start pressing it again before you land.
I generally just prefer to keep holding it though, since there's no real reason to let go of it.
Yeah.
But both of them are struggling a little with their wall runs, because, I mean, we've talked about how it's not a trivial trick at all. And Shibaki's actually keeping the run going, so... he's reset his timer though, so I guess he's just finishing the IL.
Story select.
Oh, that tree as well. I'm very surprised that he still hit that spring, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. That tree is really dangerous.
Attention all units.
Collision in this game isn't as aggressive as it is in SADX, in which any solid object will completely stop you if you ever contact it, but it can still be quite awkward in this game, with some objects just stopping you dead. I'm sure Nim can tell you all about collision in SADX.
Yeah.
So right now, best chances are lying with Mustache, and I mean, it's Prison Lane with Mustache, which he says is one of his strongest stages, and it's kind of hard to disagree with him. So we'll see how his pace continues going through here. It's looking pretty good so far from my eyes. See if he gets the early lock-on. Yes, he does. That early lock-on from that corner, where those two enemies are guarding that one gate, I know that's a bit vague description, but sorry, is honestly one of the hardest locks to get in this stage because, I don't know, the lock-on is just very inconsistent there. Might be something to do with your angle and position and where the camera is situated and all sorts like that.
Yeah. And loses like 1 to 2 seconds if you miss it.
It's kind of like how I'm convinced that it's a thing in this game where the homing attack is a lot less reluctant to hit something if the target isn't on camera. I'm convinced that's a thing. Very nice underloop from Mustache there. There's been quite a few failed attempts at that underloop skip that I've noticed where people try to spin dash through the bottom of the loop and they get launched in the air, but Mustache managed to stick to the floor, which is very nice. And a comfy low 19 checkpoint for the light dash grab. All by taking this rightwards path on the airstrip. So Shibaki, I've noticed, still takes the left path on the airstrip after getting the light shoes, which is fine. But I think we've decided that it's slightly more optimal to take the right path because of the aforementioned varying speed values on the speed pads. Like going the left path, I think you get a slightly lower speed value on the speed pads. But it's a very, very slight time loss, if anything. Can this be a 121 for Mustache? Nah, that's a 122. A high 122. Alright. Still a respectable time. Like, I don't think I've ever gotten a 122 in a run, so I can't really talk. I think the best I've done is a 124.
I think I've gotten a high 122 like once or twice, but...
My strats in general for Metal Harbor aren't fantastic. Like, I don't do the underloop at the start of the stage properly, for one thing. And I don't attempt the pulley skip near the end.
Yeah, the underloop at the start actually almost saves it only saves time if you get it perfectly, and even then only like half a second. Like, I go for it, but most of the times when I do it, it doesn't actually save time. I just mostly do it because it looks cool.
Yeah. which can kind of suck as well because it is actually not risk-free either. Mustache is struggling a bit with Shadow though because he's fighting back pretty hard. Wow, that was strange.
Do you know who I am?
Not sure what to make of that one. That was very smooth from Darkro going towards the light dash there though. Like, I was convinced that he wasn't going to have enough space to charge and release his spin dashes there, but he somehow managed it.
Blows up?
And this is the aforementioned pulley skip that I mentioned just there, that Darkro was doing there and that the runners have been doing. That's not really a trivial trick either.
Yeah.
It saves a good couple of seconds, but you need to jump with the camera, and either you or the camera can get stuck on the like little struts in that structure, and it can just make things a lot more awkward. And it's not just this straight leftwards jump that you're doing either. It needs to be angled slightly forward so that you are actually landing parallel with the track.
Yeah, and if you're too forward, you're gonna get stuck on the side of the track because it's actually solid there, and it'll just drop you off. And if you go too far back, you have the camera kind of messing up, and also you travel too far distance, so you can't actually make it over. See,
Alright.
Mustache.
Go on, Mustache.
Okay.
Okay, he's gonna just go. This is the first time we're actually seeing ascending the tree, which is what you would be doing if you weren't using the skip. So this is what the majority of runners actually do.
Also, the tree run, as spectacular as it looks, but it only saves about 12 seconds, I want to say.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's still a significant amount of time, but you can see there just exactly what you skip by doing the tree run. That there's that huge ascent section, and then the small, what we call bungee skip, where you jump over that section that's going to the left instead and fall to the right, which it's treated as being like one of the simplest skips of the game, even for beginner players to do, but there is still a bit of method in it because there's an invisible wall on the right which you'll just crash into and not make any progress if you're too far to the right, and that's the main culprit for people not being able to cover the distance on that skip.
Yeah, you kind of have to do it blind, so you need a bit of experience to know exactly where you're going.
Yeah. It's possible to get the camera to follow you over the half loop, but it's very difficult. Like, you need very fast movement and precise positioning. It's not reliable to expect the camera to follow you. So you just need to know where to go and then which direction to fall, basically. So I already know which first piece Mustache has. Yep, Tombstone, guarded by 4 skulls. That's the only piece that you can have if the radar pings green as you're going towards the upgrade, which is a good first piece. Person that you're waiting for is a little awkward. This is at the...
Yeah, that's a bad piece.
Oh, this is an awkward route as well. Well, I don't know about awkward. This might actually work pretty well. But I'm not sure, because he actually ended up fairly low down there. Either way, it's right here at the Ghost train station. But from here, one of the reasons that that's a fairly bad piece is that there's no hint monitors near it after you get it, so...
Yeah.
Oh, this RNG is terrible. King of the Hill is a horrible last piece. He did get the slanted dive off the rocket though, that's nice. Because that makes you launch with maximal speed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it happens when you dive off on like the first frame after you drop off the rocket or something like that. And then you...
Something like that, yeah. It might not be frame perfect, but it is a
Yeah.
case of doing it very quickly after getting off the rocket, yeah. So it's difficult to get. And it's probably more reliable to time it rather than trying to mash it, which means
Yeah.
that you need to have a very good feel for how to do it.
Yeah, you can't really actually mash it because after you drop off a rocket, you're in the falling state, and you can't directly drill dive in the falling state. You have to get into the glide first, and then from there you can drill dive. So you have to press A and B or X. So you have to actually press 2 buttons to do that.
I'm not sure if you really can't drill
At least
dive
not immediately, I think.
Yeah, Because if you just drop a glide and then fall for a second, then you can drill dive out
Yeah.
of that, but not immediately, yes.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a shame that Mustache did miss the 0 cycle jump, so we'll just have to see where he goes from here. Like, yeah, he's kind of waiting for this cycle here. Ideally, you would just catch that cycle as it's going up rather than when it's coming down to meet you. So 53 check, that's completely standard first cycle, I believe. Oh, wow! Did you just see how he did that cage skip?
No.
He jumped onto the side barrier on the corner and jumped off it.
Oh wow. That's a
That's-
fancy strat.
I've actually never seen someone do that. Oh!
Oh no.
Alright, someone go into Mustache's stream and tell him to stop landing on the zipper.
File select.
Tell him to land on the orange girder before it and then walk onto it. That's the safer method for doing that. Because getting launched into the fence there and falling is something that's very easily avoidable. Wow, Mustache, I'm only trying to help. Oh well, we'll try again. Come on. Nah, it's not it. That's a shame. Oh, he's attempting. I don't know if he's gonna land that or not. Oh, he's probably. This is probably when he's paused to type to us. Either way, Seraphim's definitely prime candidate right now on his own Metal Harbor. It's been. I feel like it's been a while since anyone's been out the first half of the game. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's fairly standard, I think, for this game. Like, we all had the initial race to begin with. People got a couple of good attempts in after that, and now people are just struggling, as is normally the case.
Yeah, sometimes something I feel like for this game, I often get a good run going very early, but then as I keep on trying, I struggle very hard to get past the first few levels.
I definitely know that feeling well in my own games as well, yeah. I do agree with that. I think it's probably just that people are a lot more likely to put more energy into their first few attempts, and then not so much that they're like psychologically defeated after the first few attempts, but you can't really just put the same amount of energy in after that. Like, you're just not as fresh anymore.
Go back to the city.
File select.
No, that's... Shibaki, that's not the objective. We're trying to get out of the city. Ooh, very awkward camera there for Seraphim, but he handled it quite nicely. The camera
that
has a nasty habit of getting stuck behind that loop there.
Yeah, that loop skip is really dangerous because of that camera.
And yes, these attempts are just for Hero Story of Sonic Adventure 2. People do run Dark Story and All Stories, but this is just Hero Story that we're going for today. As it
Hero
is the
Story
most
is the most
competitive category.
competitive.
Yeah, exactly. It's the shortest and most competitive category. So, here we are. It's also got a bloody terrible skip in the first stage, which people are currently resetting over, except for Seraphim, who's on a solid run. So, can Dark Pro join him? Of course he can.
He can.
There we go.
Any completion since the first one? Almost.
Mhm.
We had one run actually going until the final boss.
Yeah, I'm still stunned that Shibaki lost that run the way he did.
Yeah.
Shibaki cannot stop getting the bad camera there either. He's just too fast.
Yeah. That seems to be an issue with that CE skip setup he's going for.
Seems like it.
commonly get too much speed and then get that bad camera from it.
Yeah, I think it's because you're storing the max speed value
Yeah.
and then you're letting it go immediately.
Blows up.
So there's no time for it to decay, basically. But it sounds better to just say that he's too good, so that's what I'm going with. Wanamaker, you're
coming
more
up
than welcome
for-
to try yourself.
Seraphim coming up here for the tree run.
Yep, this is crunch time once again. Good position as well. Yep, that looks like a nice attach. Oh, Vertex.
no.
Alright, Seraphim's also gone up the normal way. It's quite possible when you're crossing the vertexes of this tree that it just rejects you,
Yeah.
which... that's just bitter. Wanamaker, we actually started with a race. I'm sorry to say if you were looking forward to one. I mean, I don't know, you might be able to coax the runners to do a closing race, but I don't think so. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing one, in the past broadcast there is a race at the start of the stream. And yes, the old method for CE skip is faster. Because by storing a spin dash through the speed pads, you slow down momentarily. Like, it's only a slight difference, but it does lose a little bit of time.
Chibaki's method is about the fastest because about the slowest because you actually stop for a moment.
Yeah, you come to a full stop, but if you are used to the inputs, it gives you the best shot at actually calculating your launch position and going for it properly. So I think he prefers the consistency. And then there's people like Shining who can just do the old method and get it consistently anyway. Damn Shining face.
Seraphim here with a pretty solid Pumpkin Hill.
This is going to be about a 40 from the looks of it, which is fairly respectable. I'd say with like really good RNG, you're looking at... I'm not really sure why he didn't just damage boost there, because he had the rings to take it, but whatever. But yeah, with really good RNG, you're looking at getting down as low as a 30, maybe clipping a sub 30 in Pumpkin Hill for like 29s, maybe 28s. But
Yeah,
30 is generally the best times that you're going for.
Yeah. Unless you get something like cold iron bars, then you can cut off another 10 seconds or something.
Possibly, yeah. Though, because of how many pieces are potentially locked out in Hero Story runs, because the way that the game makes sure that you are picking up the shuttle balls in Pumpkin Hill is the game will only ever give you piece 3s that you need to dig up. So, like, you could get piece 1s and piece 2s that you need to dig up. Like, maybe, that's random. But what is guaranteed is that the game will give you a piece 3 that you need to dig up. That's the game's way of proof checking that you are getting the shovel claws. And the result being that it does like influence some of the piece layouts that you can get initially in the stage with the piece 1s and the piece 2s in some ways. But one thing that I find irritatingly common is that if I have gotten cold iron bars in Hero Story runs, it's almost always been with double containers pumpkin variation, which is the absolute worst piece to get with it because it's the only time that you don't get cold iron bars as a free piece, with my checking method for double containers at least. It's a piece that can be in 3 separate spots at the 3 main mountains, and Pumpkin Mountain is the last one that I check, which is inconvenient because the 3-piece Cold Iron Bars only spawns with piece 1s that are at Pumpkin Mountain, so it's at the last place that I check.
Yeah, and usually, if you get a Pumpkin Mountain piece, you turn around and you go past Cold Iron Bars, but if you have to check for all the different double containers, you actually take an entirely different route and then don't even go past the piece anymore.
Like you do a full circle around the stage, like around basically the perimeter of the stage where Cold Iron Bars is in the middle, so you visit virtually all the spots except where the radar would ping for it, which is really irritating. And it just really sucks as well because the fact that double containers can be in 3 separate spots means that in order to get that bad one in the first place, it was already a 1 in 3 chance from getting that specific piece, which is in itself about a 1 in 30 chance.
I did it!
So honestly, the chances of getting Cold Iron Bars with that specific piece 1 is something like 1 in 10,000.
That was a little tough.
Something like that, and I've gotten it more than once in runs, and it's the worst thing that can happen.
I didn't expect the inside of the mines to be like this. This is gonna be tough.
So let's see how Aquatic Mine is going to treat Seraphim. This looks like a good piece 1. I think he's got one at the top. Yes, he's got one near the
really good.
Under the triangular skull is in the narrow path. This
That's
isn't
not
a...
optimal.
It's not a hidden piece though, so it's not too bad. Like, he doesn't need to dig for it. And then he goes for him.
Flattened ground is really bad.
This is still going to be like a 30 though, so that's still very respectable.
Let's see how flattened ground works out.
It's close.
How did he miss that? He even dug in the right spot for it. Because if you... That piece can be in 2 separate specific spots. It can either be on the left side or in the middle, but I find that if you dig like in the left middle, in between them, you generally overlap both of the piece spots. So I'm really surprised that he missed that.
The president must be over there. Let's go.
So even though Seraphim is the most ahead, for the next couple of minutes, I will personally be watching Darkro and Shibaki just because Seraphim is on Route 101. Like, there really is just nothing noteworthy going on in Route 101, sadly. Mustache, focus on your runs, man. In before he's just typing with his feet.
Oh yeah, Seraphim is doing backwards
wow,
drive.
yeah, he's doing it. Nice. So this isn't... I said there's nothing noteworthy in Route 101. Apparently I'm lying again. This isn't faster, but it is quite swaggy. So, yeah.
It actually loses a bit of time because you have to kind of hit the wall to turn around.
Yeah.
It's a funny trick to show off in like marathons and such.
Did you find the president?
Almost, Sonic. Just a few more minutes.
Pace really isn't too shabby either. Well, it wasn't. Not anymore, it's not. So both Shibaki and Darkro finishing up their respective green forests. Shibaki with a slight lead over Darkro. Oh wow, and Mustache has just hit over 7,000 total attempts.
Not bad.
I don't know whether to congratulate him or commiserate with him. I mean, it sounds like a lot of attempts, but when you consider that a lot of the time we reset in the first minute, it's understandable how we rack up that many attempts.
Yeah, actually Shibaki has, I think, by now, like 13,000 maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
I think
he has
last-
a lot of attempts.
Yeah, Shibaki has far over 10,000 attempts.
And at the end of Route 101 there, I think Seraphim actually made a slight mistake there because he clipped the last car of the stage, which caused him to lose a bit of speed, which
Yeah.
really makes you suffer on that final straight, because that straight is actually very, very long. So being under the max speed limit actually does cost a bit more time than it seems.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, Shibaki died.
that's really bad.
Now that he's died, he can get any piece 3 that the stage has because he has the shovel clause.
File select.
So he's not necessarily going to get a piece 3 that needs to be dug for anymore.
Store.
So this looks like... you got the
Same piece
same
again.
piece again. That's the game just having a giggle, that. It's like, oh, you don't like this piece? Alright, you can have it again.
Suspect seen heading south. Block all
It reminds me of that time where I got Ghost Protects the Goddess 4 times in a row.
Oh my god. I'm sorry. Just hearing about that makes me feel bad for you.
And that were pre-booty clip time, so I actually had to go for it the normal way.
Oh my, that's even worse, wow.
Yeah.
It's almost like dying on Wander in a Circle and then getting that again. It's like, please, can we just not do this?
Yeah, this game is rough.
So it's ironic that Shibaki is the only one with a currently live run going on, because now it's not deathless. So even if this does run to completion, having a non-deathless run is going to kind of sting, I think. And of course, when I say deathless, I do mean without deliberate deaths, because as we've seen in Death Chamber, there are spots where you use death as a strat, but accidental deaths, I mean. I believe he's on comfy pace for the Zero Cycle, but we'll just have to see. And then go over. He went straight into the zipper, but thankfully it didn't punish him. I quite like that method that he's got there with running on the side rail, but it looks dangerously precise as well, and I don't see myself trying that.
Yeah, the collision on those side rails is kind of sketchy. I wouldn't quite trust that.
It's too skilled for me. Looks like Dark Pro's also taking another chocolate milk break from what I can tell. I don't quite know how many pints a day that he drinks, but the guy's probably going to have diabetes.
But I mean, let's be fair, Dark Pro has a world record, so the chocolate milk seems to pay off.
Yeah, clearly it's like chocolate milk's like his Mountain Dew, basically.
もっと頑張らないと。
A high 204 from Shibaki is pretty standard fare for Zero Cycle Mission Street, though, so Aquatic Mine, and then we will see what happens. So, free piece checks. Oh, he's got a free piece. So, already one that I've seen in the cutscene, right behind him. Is he going to go for that immediately? He is, okay. There seems to be two different schools of thought about when is best to get this. I personally prefer to go for the Switch 3 at the top of the stage before going for any free pieces.
Me too.
Some people disagree. This looks like, yep, the robot, nice. So that's something other than a minecart, and piece 3 is, from the radar range, this looks like it's in the ghost room. Yeah, this might be floating with ghosts or something. Ah, it's next to the skull, out of place. 29.
Sub 30, that's really good.
Yeah, Shibaki seems to be having quite a good time with his aquatic mines today, which is nice.
Yeah!
And yes, it is possible that you may not need Switch 3 in Aquatic Mine, but it's very uncommon that that's the case. So I would not suggest that as a probability play.
And you can also get free pieces in the top room of Aquatic Mine. So
Yeah, that's true. So after the initial race, the only run that came close to finishing was Shibaki immediately following up with a mid-35 pace run until he completely lost it in Shadow 2. So we've had one run up to the final boss, but no finished runs since after the race.
it was really good though. It was like within 20 to 30 seconds of his PB.
It was a very good run, yeah. And considering all the time that he lost on Egg Golem, that just makes it
Yeah.
all the more impressive that he finished or was going to finish so close to his PB. Like, it might have been like challenging world record pace had he had a good Egg Golem and finished in style.
Yeah, I think Shibaki was on pace for like just barely sub 35-20, like maybe 18 or 19, something like that, if he got the final boss first try.
And considering as well, it should give him hope that, like I was saying, if he'd gotten the clean Egg Golem and he could have been really close to world record, he'd previously said in response to Dark Pro getting the current world record that he didn't know if he could match it. That, I mean, I immediately said to him, well, you've had doubts multiple times about whether you can get world records, and then you've just gone and gotten world records, no matter what the current world record was. And I think that run that he had just there shows that he is still more than capable of setting a world record.
Yeah, definitely.
But in light of Dark Pro's new PB, considering some of the things like the Wild Canyon and the faster file skip and such, I definitely don't blame people for virtually giving up on matching it. It's getting very demanding to beat the world record now. Like, it used to be that it was reasonably not free. Like, it's never been free. Since Talon's world record, it has never been free, based on the state of the community at any time. But it's always been reasonable for someone to aim for world record as long as they were putting the work in to get good stage times, learning the strats, and getting good RNG. But now it's getting seriously unforgiving to match the runs.
Yeah, for the longest time, the probably best run overall, given the strats at that time, that has ever been done in the game was Talon's Low 36 from 2014, and now it's getting, with all the new strats discovered, it's getting back on a similar, or maybe even past it now,
See,
on a similar
I don't
level.
know if I even really agree with that assessment, because I think Shibaki forgot you can't use that second pulley for that strat. I don't know if I even really agree with that assessment, because if there's problems with Talon's run, his Eternal Engine was very bad. Like, it was just a bad Eternal Engine.
Yeah, but I think back in that time, the clip out and such, it was not consistent. They didn't know a consistent method, right?
That's true, yeah. His
So-
crazy gadget was also quite bad, though, and that was
Yeah,
definitely
that's
worked out
true.
at that time. And
But,
his
like-
RNG throughout the whole run was incredibly strong. Like, his Death Chamber, even by today's standards, is like one of the strongest Death Chambers there's been in a world record.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you just can't really compete with getting a 40 Deathless Death Chamber.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true.
So all four runners are currently on runs, but Shibaki is on the most promising run, which is why he's got priority in the layout right now. So, like, if Shibaki's run were to die, then it would go back to an equal layout, I suppose, if everyone were to maintain their run, since everyone else is mainly on the same spot. But priority is given to the runner with the most promising run. Because right now there's nothing really differentiating the other 3 runs since they're all still in early game. But we are reaching the critical point for Shibaki where this run is going to be decided whether it's going to effectively continue by the following 2 stages, since we've mentioned that Pyramid Cave and Death Chamber are Sonic and Knuckles' most punishing stages to keep a run going on, respectively.
Wow, Shibaki here with a sub 30 upgrade grab.
Damn, that's very nice.
That's extremely tight.
Oh wow, I'm watching the runs, really? I didn't know these runs were going on. I'm watching Sonic Speed right now.
Shibaki unfortunately lost a bit of time setting up the snake skip. But other than that, he's on a really good...
Snake skip is generally not a really good time for a lot of runners. It is quite
whoa,
punishing.
that was extremely close. That final bounce.
130 though, really, really nice.
Yeah.
Is that the best Pyramid Cave we've had today?
Probably. I think so, yeah. The best I've seen before that was, I think, a 131.
So now the moment of truth. We've got Death Chamber. I will be back in just 1 minute actually.
Yep. Yeah, Shibaki with pretty bad RNG here. EO1 is a piece that can be in 2 different spots as well, and they're very different. So it's not a very good piece to get. The core one is, yeah, it's pretty good, but like generally when you first read the hint, you usually it's not so nice because it's possible that you get the one in the green room and then it's really bad.
Yeah,
You always-
EO1 green variant is one of the worst first pieces.
Yeah, as long as you get the one in the core room, you're fine. But just reading the hint itself is kind of scary because of that.
I believe in Centurions, Emerua used to actually reset over EO1, didn't he? Without even checking if it was the good one.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think I did that before as well, actually.
I can only assume that Shibaki's timer is reset because he is actually resetting. Yeah. There you go. He's judged that his run's not good enough.
Options. File select. File select.
Yeah, every runner handles their timer themselves. And Draco and me actually do nothing on the stream itself, we just commentate, so...
Yeah, literally all we're doing is watching the same stream that you guys are. And providing our insightful commentary. These runs are definitely very insightful. They incite violence.
Seraphim with a weight jump. Looks good.
Yeah, to my eyes, Seraphim looks like he's on a pretty solid run right now. Being plus 14 against the splits is definitely still very promising. Like, it's in the red, but it's nowhere near an unrecoverable state.
Yeah. You can always recover times like that with like a good knuckled stage or such.
I cannot actually believe that Mustache salvaged that wall run. He did not look like he had a good position for the tree run there, but then that's unfortunate. I think he had an awkward detachment from the tree once he was at the top.
Yeah, looked like it. Oh, Seraphim. Damn.
I missed what happened there, actually.
Yeah, he got pulled off like he was going for the back barrel for Zero Cycle, and he got pushed off and then died.
Story.
Oh, wow. He's really struggling with Mission Street today, then, eh?
Yeah. Collision there around that area is really dangerous. They can very easily get pushed off.
Yes!
And once again, we shouldn't be saying, oh, this guy's on a really good run. Because stop
But
jinxing the runs, guys.
Can they even hear us?
Yeah, I think. No, well, no, I mean in the chat. Those guys just, they don't do any good. I mean, neither do we, but we have the privilege of actually blaming them.
This place sure feels haunted. There's no time to lose. I have to hurry and find the Master Emerald.
And yeah, that's true. Mustache, probably. Mustache, go faster. Alright, he's doing it. He's getting good RNG. He's listening.
Good job on Mustache getting good RNG.
Piece 3 is going to be when you do something bad, this may happen. Says the king.
Oh man. Oh no.
Oh, not that one, though. Damn.
Draco, you stopped this.
I'm sorry. I'll stop that now.
I found him.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Damn, what's the command? There we go. Yes, thanks very much for the command there, Monkey. And yeah, I apologize if that was a little loud.
Keeper on a really solid Zero Cycle here.
All this is, he went for a slightly early hover jump getting off there as well, which is, it's a marginal time saver, but it matters a little bit.
Mustache has unfortunately missed the weight hop and now has to go for first cycle. Ooh, and he goes for a really risky hover jump there.
I'm not sure if Shibaki is done or if he's just taking a short break. Like, it's possible. I definitely don't blame runners for stepping away from the game for a minute in this game. It's good for the soul to get away from it for a little bit. Mustache is finally listening. There we go. Now he's in. First cycle though, yeah. There may be a secret spot around here. So it's hard to really say who exactly has the best chance right now. I mean, obviously Darkbro and Mustache are both on their own respective runs, but oh my word, Darkbro.
These are some interesting routing strats.
Well,
it's
okay.
over.
That answers that question. Mustache is on the best attempt. Unfortunately. And the hint clip, yes, that's right. We haven't even really touched on the fact that hint monitor clips exist.
Oh yeah. But yeah, these hint monitors have some kind of weird collision and can push you out of bounds if you spiral upper in the right spot. And spiral uppering itself is really dumb. Even doing it at the right spot is really difficult because you have to spin your analog stick around and then it doesn't really work sometimes.
This is gonna be tough.
It's a kind of wacky mechanic.
Mustache's aquatic mind seems to be punishing him a bit, and it sounds like his lum was already a little bit on life support. That's the one at the bottom. No Chowkey strats, Dan's game. Oh, that's a horrible piece too as well. And with no free piece going towards it either. So it looks like he's either going to have stair-shaped brick room or a top piece 3, like behind a square tree. Piece 3. I won't laugh if I'm right. There you go. Told you. Basically, I decide what pieces the runners get. So I'd be quite surprised if from here Mustache is going to keep the run going, but it might be that he just wants to finish a run.
Yeah.
Because Mustache in particular is very invested in getting the best paced runs that he can. I mean, you know, obviously he's a speedrunner, but we mentioned before about how like it used to be the main target for people to try and beat Talon's low 36 run. For the longest time before Mustache actually did it, he was definitely more than capable of it, but he kept pushing it too far and never really got runs finished because back then, I'd say it was a low 36, so the target was to get a 35. Mustache kept wanting to get the 34 run, even back then, and he was like on pace for 34 runs and was just never able to drive them home, so he never finished any runs. Like, if he just had been willing to take lower paced runs, then he would have been able to get it sooner than he did. And now, I'm pretty sure the last time that he was active and doing runs, he's had times where he's like been on pace for 33s and really wanting them, but hasn't been able to drive them home.
Yeah.
So he basically asks for too much from his runs.
Yeah, it's just there's so much in this game that can go wrong, and waiting for a run where everything lines up is just incredibly unlikely.
Yeah. And yeah, it's worth my pointing out as well that I'm going to link in the chat. If you would like to continue to see more of this after this streaming event is done, we as a community are actually currently in the middle of our annual community marathon, Sonic Speed 2017. Last year we had Sonic Speed 2016, which I think everyone really agrees was quite the resounding success.
Yeah,
and we're now in the middle
great.
of Sonic Speed 2017, which you can find at the linked channel at Sonic Speed Marathon.
Yeah,
So-
definitely check that out. A variety of Sonic games coming up. It started earlier.
Started with Sonic 06 because, you know, you've got to start on a high note. And currently we're actually on Sonic Generations by Froganock. And tomorrow we do have a Sonic Adventure 2 race. Between Mustache and Seraphim are racing tomorrow as well, and I will be joining them in the race as well. So you finally get to see how bad I am at this game. Clue, I am worse than Mustache and Seraphim, so it's going to be a bit of a blowout, but it should be a lot of fun regardless.
So after this, if you want to see more Sonic, you know where to go.
Mustache entering the hidden base. We'll see if his Tails movement is able to pay dividends here. Pretty sure Mustache has been caught before saying like, oh, 145 is free in hidden base. Well, not anymore, it's not. But he, like I mentioned before, he's just got very high expectations for level times.
Yeah.
He managed to get virtually clipless going through that corner of the GC skip though, which is very nice. It's common to see it pull runners part way down, but not enough to cause a death, but getting a virtually clipless clip there where you don't lose any height is actually quite uncommon.
Yeah. It's not actually faster though, I believe. Since you don't really lose any time from getting pulled down a little. From all I can tell at least.
And 145, not major expectations, maybe, but Mustache says that it's free. There's a difference between major expectations and saying that something is free. Interesting question in the chat that it really depends what you mean by how long have we been training or practicing for this. We've all been running the game for quite a long time. Like, all the runners in the race, Mustache and Dark Pro have been running for over 3 years. Shibaki's been running for a good couple of years, I think, and Seraphim's been running for the best part of a year. Me and
Seraphim is
the
the newest run of all of them. And all the others have been around since couple of years.
Yeah, and Nim's been around about, I think, 2.5 years. I've been around for about 3 years now. So we're all fairly experienced, I would say. But in terms of the solid practice we've been putting in for this event, it kind of varies and depends. Mustache himself, as well as Mustache is playing and really pulling his weight with the other runners, Mustache is honestly still in the process of derusting. Because, like, Mustache has taken multiple lengthy hiatuses from this game to just play Overwatch, and is honestly still not playing at his peak. So even consider that when you see that he's still, like, matching the other runners, and he's still kind of giving them a handicap. And in the meantime, we've got people like Dark Pro, who... Dark Pro, for the longest time, was, like, up and coming and has been climbing through the ranks. But now that he's the world record holder, you can obviously tell he's definitely made his mark as one of the best current runners of the game. Like, he's put in so much work to become one of the current best runners of the game. Seems to be a bit of a mirror of the whole Behemoth situation in Super Metroid, or Oats and Goats, if you want to draw a comparison. You know, went from dying in marathons to becoming world record holder, because that's how that works.
Yeah, Mustache just did a very risky strat at the beginning of Pyramid Cave. That's pretty impressive. He hit the dash pad right at the corner. It is really precise because he can very easily miss it, and that sends you flying, and you land on the edge of the path.
Yeah.
And from there on, you can just do a small hop into the upgrade instead of having to do like a bigger jump, a boost from the enemy or something like that.
And so even if you land that correctly, you also then need very straight movement to even capitalize on it.
Yeah, and it's really difficult. It's really tight.
And then he even followed that up with a setupless snake skip as well. That was crazy. Yeah, those strats were incredibly solid. So, yeah, like I'm saying, this is the gameplay of someone who is still derusting. And he's even got roasted keys, which, oh, we missed. Alright, let's go. Alright, roasted keys, shoebox. So, using death strats after shoebox would normally be advisable, but roasted keys is one of the pieces that he would have hoped to get with the death strat, so no point in doing it. And he won't be able to do it for a possible piece 3, because the way that the piece generation works, he will not get a piece 3 in the red room after that piece 2.
Yeah, you can only do death strats backwards, so from piece 3 to piece 2, but not from piece 2 to piece 3, or from piece 1 to you can 2 to 3.
Yeah. Real talk though, one of the more awkward situations of death strats that I've managed to successfully use. I've had situations where in Wild Canyon I've had a piece 1 like somewhere up the top, piece 2 terrace with 2 legs, which I've died grabbing, and then I've had a respawn piece 3 when I respawned.
Yeah, that can happen, but
Who's there?
like the only stages where death strats are actually on average beneficial are Death Chamber and in Dark Story Egg Quarters
Yeah.
and Mad Space, maybe? No, not really. No, not Mad. Well, in some cases, but in Hero Story, it's really only Death Chamber where you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Though
Like,
it can work every once in a while, but you shouldn't really go for it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's like, if you had a key to just suddenly force a death, there may be more spots where it's advisable to do it, but in some cases it's purely the fact that you don't have anything that you can quickly die on in the vicinity.
Yeah.
But in Death Chamber and Egg Quarters, there's constant flame torches everywhere where you can just take a quick death if you want.
Ooh. Mustache misses the 1 cycle.
He did.
That's
Wow.
very costly.
That is one of the most costly mistakes that can be made in a run, yeah. I mentioned before that costs, going by IGT, that costs about 40 seconds to miss that.
Yeah, it's not too difficult of a strat to get the 1 cycle, but just thinking about how much time it loses to miss it, it's always pretty scary to do it, I find. Because 1 wrong input can basically mean a reset.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of awkward stuff that just generally goes on in that boss fight as well, since there's anything from not being able to keep up with him to getting too far ahead of him, which causes him to go the other way, and so it's just another thing in the league of strats that are more precise than they actually look. Struggling with these super bounces as well. That angle going up there. Thankfully, he's not getting himself messed up by causing a spin cycle in Egg Golem, which is caused by being in the back half of his body when he starts deciding his next attack cycle. So if you land behind him, you're basically going to get a spin attack, which is awful because it's a very long animation and it's impossible to interrupt once it starts.
Yeah, even if you kill him while he's doing the spin animation, he still finishes the spin animation.
Yeah, it's really not good. So, as far as Mustache is concerned about his own run, this is definitely a dead run right now, but I think at this point he's just finishing the run out. Which, you know, at least we'll be able to see a run finish at this rate. Assuming it does continue to go all the way. Very nice strat there in Eternal Engine. I'm glad that we've started doing that strat actually, because it makes first cycle a little more forgiving, where you break the top box in the switch room. Dark Pro is also the only runner currently who takes a running start on that missile switch that Mustache reached a few seconds ago before the cages in Eternal Engine.
Yeah.
Because typically we just stand on it until it triggers and then run off it, but Dark Pro actually runs over it as it becomes ready, which requires some careful timing, but is slightly faster since then you're not waiting for the acceleration from running. Typical Mustache Tails movement there, though, that he was actually too fast for the first cycle. Just like Dark Pro was the other run, so he would have to actually wait for it there. I'm surprised he actually got that clip out because his setup wasn't actually quote-unquote correct there. You're supposed to start running forward from a very specific spot, and he wasn't in the right spot there. So that was either lucky, or he just has a very acute feel for how that's supposed to work and made a necessary adjustment. Could be either or, knowing Mustache. Oh, I'm sorry, Jazz, for marginalizing you. Yeah, as far as runners go who are like really good at stages, like on a stage by stage basis, Jazz in the chat is very, very good at Eternal Engine and has IL grinded it to hell. You find certain runners in this game who, obviously they want to be good at the whole game, but you occasionally get runners who focus on specific stages and get better at those stages than others. Like, Nim, do you still consider yourself a Meteor Herd specialist?
I'm a bit rusty, probably. I've kind of lost my fire a bit for Meteor Herd, but
Was it being not very good to you?
I pretty much got everything I wanted now, and I'm just kind of tired of playing the stage now, so I'm not super enthusiastic about it anymore.
I mean, that's understandable. I do still consider myself a boss specialist, though, which means I do need to I do need to hurry up and learn the fireball skip in King Boom Boo currently, because that's the only boss strat that I don't do in runs that other people are doing. But that discounted, I do strats in almost every boss fight that no one else wants to attempt in runs.
Yeah, especially like small optimizations, like the Shadow 1 strat, for example.
Yeah,
with the spin dash, that's really tough.
The spin dash into storage strat on Shadow 1, which is really stupid because it's incredibly precise. It's very easy to mess up, and it only saves a quarter of a second if you land it. And if you miss it, then it loses like several seconds. So,
yeah, these are like strats most people don't even bother with, including me.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Getting mustached. Yes, that is the correct terminology.
That's a good one. Pure Emerald. Talking to you is a waste of time.
Someone should go to game FAQs and edit all the FAQs to make references to getting Meteor Herd pieces badly getting mustached.
There's a few instances in this game where we have named making mistakes or losing runs to certain spots after people.
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, that feel when, until the end of time, getting a 150 prison lane is going to be getting a Draco tier prison lane. I'm never shaking that off, man.
Also, I'm known to dying to a specific piece in Egg Quarters in Dark Story.
So it's been a while since we've seen a crazy gadget, so we're going to see if we can still get the CGSS. If you feel like offering support to Mustache, please do post CGSS in the chat.
First try clip out.
That's good. But can he finish?
Oh, that looks great.
Looks good, yeah. Looking good.
Oh!
How did he miss that?
That was so close.
He was... I disagree. He was in contact with the goal ring there.
Yeah, that
was incorrect.
The game was definitely wrong there. That was just unfair.
This game is a fickle mistress.
Yeah.
It's honestly its own kind of BS that he missed that skip in that way, though, because with trying to land in the rotating goal ring, the fact that the goal ring is rotating does influence its hitbox. So he missed that just as much due to the goal ring being in the wrong part of its rotation cycle as anything else, which that is the worst reason to lose a skip like that. Oh my god!
Wow.
That time he actually had too much distance. It's actually difficult to have too much distance for that. That is unreal. He game overed, wow. I mean, at this point, he's definitely just trying to finish a run. Thank you very much to Shibaki for your participation. Everyone, please do go and give Shibaki a follow. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah, definitely.
Shibaki has put on a lot of good work in this game and definitely deserves support, so please do go and give Shibaki a follow, and to the other runners as well. Let's actually... Come on, Mustache, you've got this. I know you've got this. Is he gonna... Oh, it must be this one, right? That looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
there we go.
Finally.
Alright, it only took about 3 minutes, but he finally got it.
It's a very tough skip.
So, do you think he's still on possible sub 40 pace at this point?
I don't think so, no. No,
We'll
definitely
see.
not. With all the result screens and loadings and cutscene skips.
That's true. So probably a low 40 that we're expecting from Mustache here.
Yeah.
If he goes really fast. Unless he goes for fast FR skip, then maybe.
Seraphim just got a really good, or
Oh, there's...
solid
that's-
egg golem.
That Eggman finish was very nice.
Sub 40 egg golem is pretty solid.
Yeah. Like, at the world record level, these guys want to be aiming for a little more, but a sub 40 egg golem is fairly respectable. But asking someone to get sub 30 egg golems is starting to push what can be reasonably consistent. He's going for it as well. He's going for faster skip. Alright.
Wonder if he's still doing the old strat for that. Oh, he is, yeah. He's actually doing the gravity bounce, which is kind of an old strat. We used to think you actually have to hit a gap between kill planes with a gravity bounce, but then at some point Dark Pro figured out that you can actually just drop straight down without a gravity bounce and just go through the kill plane instead. Because you go through the kill plane either way, you don't actually have to hit a small gap for that skip.
I still personally prefer the gravity bounce because I think it gives you a straighter angle and a better shot, but I could be wrong. It's kind of preference at this point how you want to do it.
The dropping straight down is faster though, but I agree that the gravity bounce feels nicer.
Mm-hmm. Also, Seraphim getting a 104 check at Eternal Legendary is really nice.
Yeah, that's really good.
That instant clip, well, not instant clip, but he got very quickly pushed out, was quite nice as well. I don't know if Mustache actually has enough height for the end here. He might need to go for the backup clip through the back end. Yeah, he's going to need a backup clip. Yeah. There we go. That's fine.
Yes!
There's kind of like an invisible wall around the goal ring. And you can, if you don't have enough height, you need to kind of slide down it. And the lower you are, the more it pushes you off.
Mm. we've been told as well that the stream is coming to an end after the end of Mustache's stream, so I would like to just give a quick thank you to all the runners who've taken part. They've all done a fantastic show. Big thank you to Fiesel for putting this on here, and Sinister helping us set this up. To everyone involved in setting this up, big thank you. It's been a really good opportunity, and we're really grateful to be able to showcase this game for you guys. Nice death mustache. And again, if you'd like to continue watching some more Sonic content, then we currently have the Sonic Speed Marathon going on. I don't know if anyone still has a link for that, but the Sonic Speed Marathon is going on all weekend, and we will have another run of this game tomorrow, featuring Mustache again, Seraphim again, and myself. I'll also be taking part in the race. But until then, we have a lot of good Sonic games going on all weekend, so I hope you guys would like to consider checking it out, and do please consider giving the runners a follow each. They're all really cool guys, and myself and Nim if you want as well, because we are also active runners of this game.
So thank you all for having me. I had a lot of fun. Really enjoyed doing this. As Draco said, go check out the runner channels. All really cool guys. Very enjoyable streams, and thank you all.
So I'm not entirely sure when we're expected to get off, but I just know it's going to be soon, since Mustache's run is now over. But for what it's worth, like I say again, it's been real fun putting this on, and very grateful for this opportunity. So I know you guys are hyped to see some Ori and the Blind Forest, and I mean, I don't blame you. Great game, great runners. So do have fun with that when that comes on. And if we see you during Sonic Speed, that'll be fun. So hopefully we'll just see you when we see you. So thank you all once again, guys.
All right.